This guy has the best power in the world. He's the only one who can make every single demons go completely obsessed with him. But he doesn't use this attraction just for fun. Every intimate moment he has with them turns into status points. The more intense it gets, the more points the system gives. The demoness gets attracted to him. He gets stronger. She gets even more attracted to his strength. And he gets even stronger. This system is perfect.
Give it to me! Give it to me!
His name is Saris, and the first time he used this power was in a dungeon where the strongest guys were getting slaughtered by Yug, the Demon King's daughter. Even being rank F, he was the only one still standing. When Yug saw he was completely fine, she went straight for him. That's when the MC decides to activate his power on a demoness for the first time. Yug was about to devour him, but out of nowhere she started kissing the guy right in the middle of the dungeon. Every single warrior and orc just froze with no idea what was going on. The demoness pulls back, not understanding why she did that. The orcs attacked because he kissed their queen, but the kiss boosted his stats so much that he wiped the floor with them easily. Yug got furious and grabbed him by the throat, saying she was going to finish him off. When she ripped his armor, the orcs thought he was done for, but honestly that kind of suffering even I would want. The demoness started kissing him, where the sun don't shine, and his stats shot up insanely, so much that by the end he actually leveled up. Bartley, the demon lord, showed up right at that moment, and just stood there with a blank look on his face, wondering why she never did that with him. Watching that mess, the demon lord got furious and rushed in at lightning speed, sending Ceres flying with a punch that almost gave him a game over right there. The guy was so heated he just wouldn't stop hitting. Face to face with the MC, he threw another attack that even left the demoness in shock. When he was about to be done for, Ceres activated the system at the last second and his lover showed up, throwing a slap right across Bartley's face. Yugen threw herself over the MC and told the Lord to keep his hands off him. Since the system was activated, she started showering him with affection, leaving the Lord completely destroyed inside. He even tried to kill her out of rage, but he still loved the demoness, and just couldn't bring himself to do it. With all the status gained from her affection, the guy leveled up fast to level 10, and with one super fast attack ripped the demon's head clean off. That was the first demon I ever saw die of love. Without his head, his body started combusting, and caused a massive explosion. Everyone managed to escape, falling down to the lower floor of the dungeon. When Ceres hit the ground, he saw that Yog, the super healthy demoness, had turned into a tiny little salamander. Bella, the surviving warrior, spotted her between her own legs and died of embarrassment on the spot. The MC got the full dungeon map as a reward for killing the boss. The map showed every trap, loot, and boss. It was exactly what he needed, but before he could celebrate, a poison struck. A bizarre pain took over Ceres' body out of nowhere. He coughed up a purple liquid and cuts started opening on his skin by themselves. But the worst part came when his little pinky finger simply vanished. When the pain passed, Bella asked what the hell that was all about. Ceres opened up and told her the truth about why he was risking his life in the dungeon. 6 months ago, during a city attack, he saw monsters fighting a hero over some weird box. The whole conflict revolved around it. One of the monsters slashed the box and triggered a shockwave, strong enough to send Ceres flying into the ruins. The broken box started leaking a strange liquid, and shortly after the sky turned deep red, raining blood out of nowhere. The hero got hit and melted instantly, and the monsters met the same grim fate. Ceres was incredibly lucky to escape the rain, but when he woke up he found out about a lethal poison, and the doctors gave him only 1 year to live. That's when the system popped up on screen saying only the blood of the demon god could save him, and now he discovered that an antidote exists somewhere lost inside this dungeon. The story then shifts to another group nearing a dungeon room, when their tank suddenly senses danger, and a laser shoots out. The party barely avoids getting skewered, everyone except the tank. The vice captain tells the squad not to move, afraid more traps might go off, so the whole group freezes in place. One trap already killed their best shield, so nobody wants to take chances. They don't have a safe way to test the path, but retreating right away isn't an option either. Then the crusade captain, Cyrus, says they should follow the usual rule and send the weakest soldier first. The poor guy gets shoved ahead and told to find the safe route, even if it costs his life. He can't refuse. Cyrus is clearly ready to kill him if he disobeys. As despair sets in, the vice captain offers another idea. He has a special arrow that can scout ahead and improve their odds, but Cyrus just cuts it in half. That only pushes the D-rank soldier deeper into despair. Cyrus calls the vice captain's tools useless and warns he'll kill him too if he keeps messing around. Then he orders the D-rank soldier to move. Shaking all over, the poor man takes a step. Luckily, no trap goes off, but the next step is worse, because he has no clue where it's safe. While he's trying to decide, the leader won't even let him think, and barks at him to keep going. Trembling, he lifts his leg and somehow makes another safe step. Every move now feels like pure life or death gambling. He knows that at this rate, he's bound to die. That fear overwhelms him and locks his body up. He panics, turns back, and begs to be allowed to return. But in his scramble, he steps on a trigger. A beam shoots straight through his head. The rest of the party is horrified, because the beam's path shows the traps can hit from almost any angle. As the body drops, Cyrus orders the next weakest person to step forward. Then the door suddenly opens by itself, and everyone looks over. Out walks our boy, totally not expecting to run into them here. And remember that decoy group from earlier. Bella and Cyrus were supposed to be part of it. What shocks the captain is that both of them made it this far alive. Just seeing Cyrus again makes him furious. To get why, we need to go back to what happened before they entered the dungeon. Cyrus got dragged in for somehow knowing private details about the captain's wife. Yeah, that mess blew up fast. He tried to explain himself, but the captain was already close to killing him over it. Cyrus swore he'd never do that, and claimed he was only training his eyesight. Then, to everyone's shock, he started listing the colors of their underwear. That was enough to flip the captain's men in seconds. They went from begging for mercy to saying he should die on the spot. Instead, Cyrus suggested throwing him into the decoy group as punishment. And that's how our boy ended up here, only to run into the same jerk again. Cyrus tells him to come over right now, but our boy knows it's a trap meant to set off the mechanisms. The vice captain says they should follow the path used by the decoy group instead of taking dumb risks, but the captain shuts that idea down too. He even acts like he's doing all this for the team's sake. Then Cyrus turns back to our boy and orders him to do his job. So he quietly opens the map feature and starts walking. Bella tries to stop him, scared he'll get blasted, but he knows exactly what he's doing, and the map tells him he's safe. The squad is stunned by how calmly he moves. They think he's just betting his life on blind luck. Step by step, he follows the system's exact route. Now the others start thinking this guy must have unreal luck. Meanwhile, he keeps moving without a pause, even turning and stepping ahead like he already knows the path. Still, his lousy F rank makes that hard to believe for them. Even though it's true, he even starts hopping around and somehow stays fine. For 1 second, Cyrus almost slips and nearly triggers a trap. The captain can't figure out why he still hasn't been blown apart. Cyrus is almost across, and after a few more steps, he passes the dead bait and stops right in front of the captain. Crossing the whole area, without setting off a single trap, leaves the group seriously impressed. Cyrus brushes it off as training, and says that proves they're innocent. But Cyrus still isn't satisfied, and almost slices his neck, demanding to know how anyone could pull that off. At the same time, he decides Cyrus will lead the way from now on. Then Cyrus spots some kale mushrooms. They're bad for humans, but monsters can eat them just fine. He figures the tiny salamander hiding in his armor must be hungry, so he picks a few. The smell is tempting, and Cyrus immediately notices and asks what he's doing. He grabs the mushroom from Cyrus's hand and eats it himself, showing just how hungry he's been. As he chews, the captain warns him not to do whatever he wants. Cyrus just says there are no dangerous traps past the door, so they can move on. But the captain still makes him open it first, not wanting his team to take the risk. So our boy has to open the dungeon door, and Cyrus tells everyone to be ready for anything. But with his sword in hand, his stomach suddenly starts bubbling. Yeah, he's in trouble. Cyrus opens the door all the way, and nothing happens. The party stays on guard, while Cyrus is over there fighting for his life, and letting out toxic gas from the other end. Our boy keeps walking, still perfectly alive, and Cyrus can't believe what he's seeing. At the same time, he's clenching hard, and realizing his stomach is wrecked because of those mushrooms. Then our boy says the room is packed with traps, and suddenly rushes ahead, knowing the others will have to follow, and that means even more pain for the idiot who ate the mushrooms. The rest of the party takes off after him, even though most of them don't know why. Cyrus is seconds from bursting and lets out another deadly blast. The funny part is that his team thinks the stink is coming from the dungeon itself, and that they're all about to die. Humiliated, he yells at everyone to run if they want to live. After that wild sprint, the team leader goes straight at Cyrus about the mushrooms, asking if this was all some setup by the D rank. Our boy twists it around so well the guy can't pin anything on him. Poor Cyrus can't even explain himself properly. One of the soldiers prepares a place for the captain to sit, but he obviously can't do that right now, so he pushes everyone to keep moving. Then he presses a blade to Cyrus's neck, and warns that if he runs off like that again, he'll kill him himself. The group keeps moving through the dungeon, avoiding trap after trap thanks to our boy. What they don't know is a sleeping dragon is nearby, unaware that humans entered her territory. Cyrus keeps guiding them forward, but monsters aren't the only ones watching. By now, the captain has noticed something strange. They haven't hit a single monster or trap. It's almost like Cyrus knows the dungeon by heart. The captain hates that thought, but he also knows someone this weak couldn't have reached this far alone before. Then Cyrus points out the boss room ahead, and to the captain, that means his use is over. He spots a huge spike hanging above Cyrus, uses his sword skill, and fires a tight wave of mana, cutting the spike so it falls right at our boy. The scumbag clearly plans to call it an accident, but just before it lands, a scorpion tail knocks it aside and lashes straight at the captain. The armored monster drops in, bringing part of the area down with it, and cutting Cyrus off from the rest of the team. The captain barely survives because he reacts in time. Cyrus, though, thinks this is the end for him. Then a voice speaks after spotting a human. The monster looks like a woman, and she makes her disgust for humans clear right away. Her name is Sadiel, and she says just seeing a human near her is revolting. A B-plus puppet scorpion, under Sadiel's control, stands before Cyrus and the team. Tien yells for everyone to get ready. Bella tenses up, struggling to even lift the sword they gave her, while Tien orders the tankers to move up and keep the monster from breaking through. The tankers raise their shields and form a wall. Next, Tien tells the archers to fire from the back while the tankers hold it off. The archers let their arrows fly. They hit the monster, and Tien tells them to keep firing, but then the creature lets out a huge roar and blasts the arrows away with sheer force. That pressure almost knocks everyone off their feet, and Tien is stunned that the monster's power alone can wipe out their attacks. Then Cyrus stands up and snaps at them for freezing in place. He tells them not to fear the monster's aura, and insists it's only one enemy, so they can beat it. Meanwhile, Cyrus hears another voice, and wonders if there's a second monster nearby. A scorpion tail suddenly shoots at the protagonist, but he dodges and tries to figure out what just attacked him. The scorpion itself lunges next, and Cyrus dodges again. Then he stops and tells the monster to take a punch worth 3,190 attack power. With one hit from MC, a hole is blasted through the scorpion puppet, and the rest of its body breaks apart and flies everywhere. Sadiel is impressed that he destroyed one of her scorpion puppets with a single punch. At that moment, Cyrus remembers the antidote for his poison is in the boss room ahead, so he refuses to waste any more strength here and plans to use the map to slip past the fight. Sadiel stepped closer and said it didn't matter. She was going to throw away anything filthy humans had touched anyway. She told the protagonist she first planned to have her monster snap him apart, but now she'd do it herself. MC froze for a second, shocked to face another female monster, then shot back that his head wasn't some melon she could just twist off. Sadiel sneered and said she wouldn't dirty her hands by touching his disgusting body. She added that while her hands were enough to handle the humans outside, she was using them now to control the scorpion puppets through strings. Then she told Cyrus she'd finish him first, and after that she'd go outside and kill the rest. He yelled back that he was a hero, and protecting humanity was his job. Even if it burned through all his strength, he'd stop her here. Sadiel lunged at him, mocking whether he really meant that. With just one leg, she caught his head and slammed him to the floor. Right then, Cyrus's system activated and locked onto Sadiel as the target. She brushed him off, saying fools who overrated themselves meant nothing to her. Outside, the scorpion puppets suddenly stopped attacking. Seeing that, Tyree cheered and pointed out the monster's head was turning red, so their hits must finally be working. The protagonist was shocked by Sadiel's speed. She admitted that for a human, making it this far was impressive, but that's all. She warned that Lord Ney hated humans entering his room, then pressed her other leg onto MC's face. Cyrus knew she was too strong, but one thing was clear. He couldn't let her get outside. So he pulled his head back and suddenly bit down on her foot. Sadiel flushed with outrage, yelling about how disgusting it was for him to do that to her foot. Outside, while the monster kept fighting, Bella realized there had been no movement for a long time. She figured Cyrus still hadn't gotten up from under the rocks, and she had to pull him out. She called to Tyre and told him to cover her. She was going to get him out of the rubble. Tyre was stunned and tried to stop her, but Bella had already run off, praying the protagonist was okay. The scorpion puppet noticed her and moved to strike, but Tyre jumped in and blocked it with his sword. Even so, he was struggling to hold it back. Bella kept rushing forward, telling herself Cyrus was a hero. There was no way a pile of rocks could keep him down. Back inside, Sadiel lost her hold on MC, because licking her foot disgusted her so much. He was relieved to finally break free from her leg lock. Then his system warned him he couldn't use instant kill without a weapon. The protagonist got frustrated. If he'd known that, he would have brought one. That meant he had no choice now but to fight with his bare hands. He threw a punch at Sadiel, but she slipped past it and kicked him in the face. As she struck, she muttered that his face felt weirdly soft. The kick sent Sadako flying back into the stone wall. Sadiel said kicking him felt great. MC had nothing to say to that, while she started getting nervous about what was happening to her. So she decided to end him fast before the humans outside reached Lord Ney's room. She grabbed the tail from the puppet Sadako destroyed and attacked with it. The protagonist saw it coming and dodged, his agility barely enough to keep up. He gathered magic into his hand and cut the tail clean in half, but that was just a setup. While he was slicing it, Sadiel rushed in again and trapped his face with her legs. Her words and expression didn't match at all as she tightened the hold, vowing this time she wouldn't let him go and would choke him with her legs. Sadako snapped, reaching up to grab her legs and show Sadiel the strength of his grip. The second he touched her, Sadiel felt strange and sprang away. A moment later though, she stomped right on his face again, furious that his dirty hands had touched her legs. She even used the broken tail pieces to pin his hand down. Sadako stunned. She'd turned the tail he just broke against him, and her control was so overwhelming he couldn't avoid her attacks. Again she pressed her foot onto his face, saying she was going to crush it. Even as she ground his face down, MC's power kept rising. Sadiel meanwhile was feeling better and better with her foot on him, until the agitation value climbed to 66. She told Sadako humans were born to be trampled under her feet, but her body was trembling, and outside the puppet fighting Cyrus and the others started shaking too. Tartar took it as a good sign and told everyone the monster was losing balance. They just had to hold on a little longer. Back inside, Sadiel was still enjoying herself. At the same time, Bella kept running toward the collapsed rocks when a scorpion tail swung at her. Tyre spotted it and shouted a warning, but he was too late. Bella was struck and sent flying, crashing into the rocks. Meanwhile, Sadiel started touching Sodakrov in places she shouldn't, and he yelled at her to stop, saying she wasn't allowed to touch him there. Near Cyrus, the tail whipped toward him, and he braced to stop it. He managed to avoid it with his sword, then realized the tail could pierce the wall even from that far away. That meant this monster was beyond elite rank. Back with Sadiel, she kept saying how soft and squishy he felt, and the agitation value rose to 95. Outside, the scorpion puppet moved to attack Cyrus again, and by the time he noticed it coming from behind, it was almost too late. He saw the Princess of Scorpio coming in, but there wasn't enough time to block properly. Then, to his relief, Sadiel suddenly became fully agitated and started acting completely strange, like she'd been charmed. That made the scorpion puppet twitch and freeze. Cyrus was surprised he had survived the attack, but he noticed the monster was making a very strange howl. Seeing it lose control, Cyrus knew this was his chance, so he unleashed Roaring Tiger Severing Strike on the scorpion puppet, sending it flying. It slammed to the ground, and everyone burst into cheers, praising Cyrus's strength for wiping out the monster with a single blow. Inside, Sadiel's agitation value had hit 98, which explained why she was acting so weird. When the monster started vomiting, everyone assumed Cyrus's attack had hurt it that badly. They praised him, saying with him there no magic beast could threaten them. Even Cyrus started thinking the scorpion puppet wasn't that strong if he could beat it this easily. But then something changed with Sadiel, and the monster began moving again. That made everyone tense up. It wasn't dead yet, so Cyrus told them to step back and watch their captain's true power. Sadiel was panicking, wondering what had come over her and why she was reacting like this to a human body. She forced herself to calm down. Cyrus, meanwhile, was thinking fast. Her body, especially her legs, was insanely tough, and if this kept up, she'd drain him dry. So he shouted that he'd never give in to her, but she shoved her leg into his mouth to shut him up, snapping that she didn't want to hear his voice. Cyrus got the same feeling he had with Yeig, like he was being toyed with by girls, but each time it happened, his stats shot up by more than 2,000. Outside, the scorpion puppet kept clashing with Cyrus, but because Sadiel was shaken and losing control, it wasn't using its full strength. Cyrus saw it weakening, so he fired off Sacred Whirlwind Slash, and the monster dropped. Everyone cheered when Cyrus used his signature move to bring it down, but the monster kept roaring. They figured he'd hit it so hard it was crying out uncontrollably. Cyrus boasted that the monster was just a punching bag to him, and even Tian praised him for beating it in one strike. Meanwhile, Cyrus's defense rose by 3,304, and his agility jumped by 4,310, making him far stronger than before. Sadiel was still enjoying herself when she suddenly heard Lord Ney asking why it was so noisy outside. That voice made her panic, and she leaped off Cyrus at once. She backed away, tense, wondering if it was over. For a moment she'd completely forgotten Lord Ney's order. Now she had to kill the filthy humans fast, and make up for that mistake. At the same time, his attack power jumped by 10,000. Killing intent poured off him as he asked Sadiel if she still wanted to keep playing. Sadiel froze when she felt the change in him. His cold, crushing presence was like Lord Ney's. She couldn't believe she'd have to fight someone like that. The moment she felt his killing intent, she turned and ran. Sadiel's was left confused about why she fled, and whether he should chase her. In the end, he let it go. His real goal was the demon god's blood in the boss room, and Sadiel had already drained too much of his strength. Outside, while everyone kept praising Cyrus and his bravery, Bella anxiously ran toward the rock wall to look for the protagonist. But before Bella reached the wall, someone kicked it open from the other side. Cyrus stepped out and froze when he saw Bella. She rushed over, asking if he was hurt, but he said he was totally fine. Bella still looked him over and noticed all the dust on him. She worried he might have injuries he couldn't feel yet, and told him to let the medics check him. MC just laughed and said he was really okay. Bella told him to speak up right away, if anything felt wrong, and he agreed. Not far away, Tian was shaking with anger, clearly upset about something involving Bella. Cyrus called everyone over and declared that from now on, they would follow behind him. He wanted them to watch his real power because he planned to beat the boss alone. The team was stunned, then started praising their captain. Cyrus was thrilled. To him, this dungeon didn't even feel C rank, more like D rank at best. If he reported this back to the guild with a boss kill, a promotion would almost be guaranteed. Then the story cut to Lord Ney's room. Sadiel warned Ney that a very strong human was outside. She said his power had started out weak, then exploded to an absurd level in an instant. She urged Ney to be careful with that human. In a strange voice, Ney asked Sadiel what order she had been given. Nervous, Sadiel answered that she had been told to guard the door and keep anything from entering the room. Hearing that, Ney snapped and demanded to know why she had been outside messing around with a human. Sadiel tensed up and tried to answer, but before she could, Ney attacked her. A huge blast went off behind Sadiel, and the beam tore through her, taking her down at once. Nay shouted that she didn't want to hear any pathetic excuses. Then she lifted Sadiel with magic and hurled her onto a pile of monster and human corpses, saying she might as well be firewood. Lying there, Sadiel weakly murmured that she didn't want to die yet. When she landed on the bodies, a pool of green liquid could be seen nearby. Nay said that after waiting so long and burning through thousands of humans and monsters, the blood of the demon god had finally started to boil. Right then, someone smashed through the door and stormed into Nay's room. Nay turned at the noise and demanded to know who was bold enough to enter her room. Cyrus answered that it was him, her daddy, and he came to beat the hell out of her. At the same time, Cyrus spotted the blood of the demon god. His system told him that drinking it could remove the toxins in his body. Nay then asked if Cyrus was the strong human Sadiel had warned her about. The protagonist stared at the green blood and wondered if that was the thing that could cure him. Cyrus told everyone to listen. Nobody was to move without his order. He said he would handle the boss of this C-rank dungeon by himself. The others cheered him on, shouting for Cyrus to show the boss what humans could do. Cyrus was shocked that the item on the platform really was the blood of the demon god. Meanwhile, Cyrus charged straight at Nay while the others yelled for him. Once he got close, Cyrus leaped up and told Nay to feel terror. Nay blocked it with just her thumb. A fierce yellow beam burst out from the clash, burning away all of Cyrus's outer armor. The hit launched him back into the air and slammed him into the wall. Everyone was stunned and rushed over, asking if he was okay. Nay mocked them, asking if Cyrus was really their strongest human, then called Sadiel useless. Cyrus was shaken. Her attack made no sense. It had shattered his A-rank armor in one hit. Luckily, he still had the S-level soft dragon scale armor his brother gave him underneath. Without that, he would have died. His teammates kept asking if he was alright, but Cyrus barely heard them. He was busy wondering what was wrong with this dungeon, and why the monsters had such insane gaps in strength. Then he decided a direct fight was a bad idea. Better to use the team to wear Nay down first, then step in once she was weakened. That would give him a better shot at winning. Cyrus got back up and ordered everyone to charge while using their own specialties. Tien cut in and warned that a wild rush with no formation would get people killed. He said they should keep their old setup, with the tankers and shield users in front. Cyrus snapped, asking if Tien was questioning his judgment or defying his orders. Tien quickly said no, but Cyrus told him to shut up and do as he was told. Then Cyrus ordered everyone to grab their weapons and push forward, promising he had their backs and they had nothing to fear. The team agreed and moved on Nay together. Nay got ready too, sneering that these humans clearly didn't know when to live or die, and that their flesh wasn't even good enough for altar fuel. She declared that she would show them the difference between monsters and humans, then unleashed a huge despair attack. Most of the group was burned by it. Cyrus grabbed Bella and Mark and pulled them out of the attack's range. Most of the others were badly burned, and several were wounded. Even Cyrus barely got clear, but his sword was burned to ashes. He stared in shock at the remains of his weapon. Nai rose into the air and mocked him, asking if he wasn't the one who promised to make her feel terror. Cyrus instantly understood he couldn't win, and started thinking about escaping. Tien stood frozen at the sight of his burned teammates. Then he saw Cyrus trying to flee, while yelling for everyone to retreat. The survivors obeyed and ran from the boss room. Hearing that order from Cyrus made Tien furious. But just then, someone grabbed Cyrus by the hand. He turned and saw MC. Holding him in place, MC reminded Cyrus that he had called himself the team's solid support, and said the fight wasn't over, so he wasn't allowed to run. Cyrus tried to yank free, but his grip wouldn't budge. He barked that he was the captain, and his word was law. If he wanted to stay and die, fine, but he wasn't dragging Cyrus down with him. Even Nay was enraged. She demanded to know how Cyrus could invade her room, cause chaos, and then try to run away. Then she prepared another attack. Cyrus panicked and shouted at the protagonist, calling him an idiot for not turning around. Nay was about to fire that same beam again. He pulled harder, trying to escape, but Cyrus's grip was absurdly strong. Cyrus yelled again for him to let go because the boss was aiming at them, but MC didn't move. That made Cyrus even angrier. He still thought he could beat the boss himself, yet he couldn't even break free from him. In a rage, he lunged at him, but the protagonist caught his arm and twisted it. Cyrus screamed from the pain. Cyrus yanked him closer, lifted him up, and got ready to throw him at Nay. He shouted that a captain should stand by his own words. The instant Nay fired, MC hurled Cyrus into the beam and told him to be the solid support he bragged about. He ordered Cyrus to block the attack with his body and cover the team's retreat. Cyrus slammed straight into the beam of light, buying everyone else time to escape. They made it out while Cyrus was left taking the full hit. One teammate stopped in shock at the sight of that. Then Cyrus glared at Nay and shouted that now it was his turn. Bella said she wanted to stay. Tyr agreed and said he was staying too to fight the monster. Bella told him he didn't have to. She was only staying because of him. Tyr said he knew that, but he was the top-ranked B-class hero. He came here to kill monsters, not run, and he definitely wasn't taking orders from idiot Cyrus again. Nay asked Cyrus why he hadn't run after seeing her power, hinting that he must be looking down on her. She fired the beam again, but the protagonist answered with swift body slash, forcing Nae to tense up and pull her hand back. That only made Nae angrier. MC was too fast. Then, to her surprise, he sprinted toward the altar, holding the demon god's blood. Nae started wondering why he was heading for the altar. A second later, she realized his goal might not be killing her at all. It might be taking the blood of the demon god. Cyrus kept running, and was only a few meters away now. Nae tried to yell for him to stay away from her altar, but Bella and Tien attacked from behind, saying this was their best chance. Nae easily caught both of their swords, then aimed at the protagonist, and cursed his speed. Bella shouted at Nae not to touch Cyrus. She and Tien both tried to force Nae back, and just as Nae fired, her footing slipped slightly, throwing off her aim. Because of that miss, MC dodged the attack. He jumped toward the altar, thrilled that he was finally about to get what he wanted. But when he got close, he spotted a magic circle. The sight made him tense, and the moment he touched it, it exploded. The blast knocked him away from the altar. Nae said she had made that magic circle herself, and as long as she lived, no living thing could pass it. Cyrus agrees, rushing in and forcing down the demon god's blood to cure the poison. Just wasn't going to work. To move forward, they have to beat the boss first. Then he noticed something hidden in the cracks of the wall. At the same time, Nae tossed Bella and Tyr aside, calling them arrogant for thinking they could handle her. They slammed into the ground and took minor injuries. Cyrus froze when he realized it was the same female monster that had escaped him earlier, and he couldn't figure out how she got here. Shaking, Nae begged the protagonist to stay quiet and not let Nae notice her. Nae said his ritual needed a calm mind, so once he killed them all, he would settle his anger. That made MC tense up. Bella was in real danger. Before leaving, Cyrus set the kale mushroom in front of Sadiel. Sadiel stared at it, wondering if the kale mushroom could really restore her strength. He rushed toward Bella, yelling that he was on his way. Meanwhile, Sadiel picked up the mushroom and started eating it. Soon, tears of joy filled her eyes. Then the protagonist system announced that Sadiel had developed feelings for the host. Because of that, he met the conditions to unlock weapons, and new weapon options opened up. A bunch of unknown cards with question marks popped up in front of him, and the system said he first needed to read the weapon rules. Meanwhile, Tien stepped in front of Bella and told her he'd hold the boss off while she escaped. Bella shot back that her leg bone had cracked again, so he needed to run without her. Tien's yelled at the system to skip all that. People needed saving, and he had no time for useless explanations. The system obeyed and told him to pick a card. MC grabbed one at random. A red glowing sword appeared in his hand. The system announced he had obtained the exploding garment, Divine Sword. Enraged, Tien's leaped at Nae and told her to test his new weapon and die. He swung at her, but she caught the blade with one hand and laughed, saying he had fallen right into it. Bella and Tyr were just bait. Her real target had always been him. Then she fired a light beam and mocked him, asking how he'd escape at this distance. The protagonist shouted back not to underestimate him. He never said he planned to dodge. He poured all his strength into a slash. Even so, it only left a small cut on Nae's hand. She laughed, saying he used everything he had and barely scratched her. Not even blood came out. To her, that was the gap between humans and monsters. But then the top part of her dress suddenly tore apart. She froze in shock and asked where her clothes had gone. Bella and Tyr were both stunned and embarrassed that MC had stripped the boss. MC was tense too because Nae was insanely strong. Then his screen explained the sword's effect. A hit made the enemy's clothes explode, and if the target became naked, it would trigger the ultimate move, Divine Sword Descent. Nae exploded with rage, calling it a filthy trick, and swore she would destroy him no matter what. The protagonist swung again, but this time she avoided it. He realized the earlier hit landed on her palm, and that was enough to blow apart the clothes above. So if he connected one more time, he could tear off the robe underneath, by going for her legs. After that, he'd remove her mask and trigger the ultimate move, so his plan was simple. Get close and keep using swift body slash. Tien's was sure Nae couldn't fully avoid him. Then the system warned him he only had enough magic for 6 uses. The skill had a 10-second cooldown, and switching to a fresh target would reset it right away. Hearing that, MC was annoyed and thought the skill was way less useful than he hoped. When the system asked if he wanted to turn it off, he firmly refused. Now he was in a tough spot. Tien Sears decided he'd just have to try anyway, and charged at Nae with swift body slash. Nae jumped into the air and dodged. Sears tensed up after missing again. Meanwhile, Nae was confused about why he kept aiming at her legs when her top was already gone. Was Cirrus trying to strip off the rest too? A moment later, Cirrus rushed in once more, but Nae snapped a kick straight at his face. The blow sent him flying. Still, he used his sword to steady himself and landed back on the ground. Pain shot through him. His nose was nearly broken, and it hurt badly. Then he remembered the agony of his body melting when the toxin spread, and compared to that, a broken nose was nothing. Furious, Cirrus charged Nae again, yelling that this kind of pain meant nothing to him. Each second dragged on forever, as Cirrus closed the distance. The moment he reached her, the countdown hit 1. He knew he could attack now. As he rushed in, Nae fired her laser beam, but Cirrus dodged it. That made Nae tense up, and Cirrus came in with swift body slash from point-blank range, wondering how she could possibly dodge now. He struck her, thinking he'd finally landed it, but he had only hit her tail. Nei was already in the air. She told him she never said she planned to run. Then she shouted that if she wasn't worried about exposing herself, she could have used bigger moves, and with his level of speed, she would have burned him to ash long ago. That made Cirrus tense up as Nei fired another laser beam. He tried to dodge with his skill and counterattack, but the screen showed it was still on cooldown. Frustrated that 10 seconds felt so long, Cirrus had no choice but to meet the attack head-on. He swung his sword directly, using all his strength, and somehow knocked the laser aside. The clash between the slash and the beam caused a huge explosion. Even Tyr was stunned. He couldn't believe Cirrus had blocked the boss's attack face to face. It made no sense. Before this expedition, Cirrus had only been judged around F rank, and even Tyr, a B rank fighter, couldn't step in against her. On the other side, Cirrus grinned as he finally understood how amazing the sword really was. Laughing, he told Nei he could now counter her attacks and dodge them easily, which made her powers useless against him. Nei admitted he was right. It really was hard for her to kill him. Then she aimed at Bella instead, catching Cirrus off guard. She said killing a woman with an injured foot would be easy, and fired. Cirrus quickly used swift body slash and struck the fingernail she was attacking with. He managed to break the nail, but he was too late. The beam had already been fired. For a second, Cirrus felt relieved, then realized Bella was still in danger. Panicked, he sprinted to save her. Nei laughed, saying humans always pull these hero moves, and that's exactly why heroes get killed by villains from behind. With that, she revealed he'd been tricked and attacked with her second hand. Cirrus realized he wouldn't reach them in time, so he had only one choice left. Knowing swift body slash could trigger right away if he changed targets, he locked onto Bella as his target and activated the skill. That let him block the attack, but the impact shattered Bella and Tyr's armor. Even Tyr was stunned that the aftermath alone broke his armor. Nei was shocked that Cirrus had escaped again. Then she noticed something strange at the altar, and realized she'd been so focused on the fight that she forgot to add firewood to keep the demon god's blood hot. If the altar cooled, all her work would be wasted, and she'd have to wait another 100 years. At the same time, Bella started acting strangely, asking why she felt so hot and weird. The system showed her agitation had reached 91. She already had feelings for Cirrus, and locking onto him made that attraction even stronger. Bella moved close and grabbed Cirrus's face like she was about to kiss him. Tian could only stare. Just as her lips were almost on his, Cirrus flashed back to when Bella was 8. In that memory, she looked scary as she asked what he was staring at. Hadn't he ever seen a gorgeous woman before, or did he want to kiss her? Back in the present, Cirrus quickly leaned away and said he didn't want to kiss her. Tian also asked Bella what was wrong and if she had really been about to kiss Cirrus. Bella wondered if she had really made the first move on her own. Her body acted by itself, and she had even stuck out her tongue in the middle of a fight. She turned bright red, tense, and deeply embarrassed. Tian angrily asked why her face was still red, and why she was sweating. Was she poisoned? Hallucinating? Had she lost control of her body? He convinced himself that had to be it, otherwise she would never do something like that. Meanwhile, Nei focused on the altar, knowing that once the demon god's blood cooled, it would take 100 years to boil again. Then she dragged over the corpses of monsters and humans, saying she refused to wait that long again. This time, she decides to burn up every last drop of the demon god's blood. Hearing that, Cirrus tenses up and asks if she really plans to burn it all away. He knows he has to stop her fast, but the boss is so quick he can barely land a hit. That leaves him with one choice: get strong enough that the boss can't dodge anymore. Nei keeps throwing bodies into the altar, hoping the fire will raise it to full heat. At the same time, Cirrus plans to use the explosive garment divine sword's ultimate move and take her out. Cirrus rushes to Bella and says he found a way to beat the boss, but he needs her help for a moment. Bella asks what he means. He explains that if they do romantic stuff, kissing, hugging, and that kind of thing, his power will rise enough to beat the boss. That instantly leaves both Bella and Tyr red-faced. Even Tyr can't believe Cirrus can say something so dirty while looking completely serious. Cirrus grabs Bella's hand and begs for her help, even though he knows this is hard for her. Bella is so flustered she can't answer, but Tyr cuts in and yanks Cirrus's hand away. He calls it nonsense, saying Cirrus just wants to use Bella, and in the middle of a fight he's talking about stuff like that. What a total pervert. Tian turns to warn Bella not to believe him, but then freezes. Bella says she trusts Cirrus. Tian is completely stunned. Then Bella places her hands on Cirrus's shoulders and tells him not to misunderstand. This is embarrassing for her too, and she's only agreeing so they can beat the monster boss, not because she wants to do any of that with him. As Bella holds Cirrus's face, he flashes back to when they were kids, when Bella tried to kiss him during their game, and scared him so badly he yelled that he didn't want to play anymore. Back in the present, Cirrus panics and screams in his head for Bella not to do that. Just like when they were children, he shoves her away. In the present, Cirrus pushes Bella back. He gasps that it was too close, he almost died. Then his system shows that Tian took a critical hit. Bella, meanwhile, can't figure out why Cirrus pushed her away. A notification pops up. Cirrus gains a level, and every stat jumps by 5,000. He realizes it's because of Mark, and feels relieved that he doesn't have to touch Bella and relive that awful memory. So Cirrus tells Bella that if this is too hard for her, they should forget it. He'll beat the boss himself. That makes Bella look down, and she asks him to wait. What if he still can't win, and ends up needing her after all? By now Bella's agitation value has climbed to 99. Cirrus makes a teasing face, says he doesn't need her help, and charges at Nai. Bella looks hurt and asks why. She can't help wondering why Cirrus has no interest in her at all. Tien cuts in and says he gets it now. Cirrus is stronger than him, so that's why Bella likes him. Still, he wants to ask something, and Bella wonders if it's that again. Meanwhile, Cirrus thinks about what he needs for the finishing move. He has to hit the boss's head and legs at the same time. He almost got her leg earlier. Now that all his stats are 5,000 points higher, he knows that with the right timing and swift body slash, he can pull it off. On Nai's side, she's confused because the altar still hasn't connected and the heat is too low. If she doesn't fix it soon, the temperature will drop fast. So she decides to use those filthy humans as a little extra fuel. Nai flies at Cirrus and tells him he should feel honored. After all, becoming firewood for her sacrifice is the highest praise she can give. Then she says it's time to use her full power, and gathers everything into one massive attack. Even Cirrus is shocked by how huge the energy sphere becomes. Nai hurls the attack at him. Cirrus raises his sword and tries to hold it back, but while blocking, he gets alerts that his magic is dropping fast. Little by little, his magic points fall close to 0. He barely manages to throw the attack aside, but it almost drains him completely. Now he has only 11 magic points left, not enough to use any skills. Cirrus goes tense. He's out of power and has no idea what to do next. Nai smiles and tells him she knew his magic was gone. The fight is over. Cirrus desperately tries to think of a way out. Then to his surprise, Bella rushes over and cups his face. She says he obviously needs her help, then pulls his face against her chest, leaving Mark shocked and heartbroken. Cirrus can't help thinking Tien really is a good guy. Bella thinks the same, but she already told Tyr long ago that someone else was in her heart, and that never changed from childhood to now. Because Bella and Tyr both end up heartbroken, Cirrus gains 5 levels, and light starts pouring from his body. The protagonist feels a huge wave of power rise inside him. Then a message appears. All his stats have increased by 27,500 points. Nai is stunned. In her mind, that should be impossible. MC shouldn't have anything left to fight with. Now Cirrus shines even brighter, like he's reached a whole new level of power. Nai sneers that no matter how much stronger he gets, he's still only human, an ant compared to monsters. But before she can finish, he charges in and swings with everything he has. Nai moves to dodge, sure she can avoid it. Still, the protagonist cuts across her with a lightning-fast slash. She doesn't notice at first, but when her mask and robe split apart, she realizes in shock that he really destroyed her mask. At that moment, Cirrus gets a system message. His ultimate move, Holy Sword Descent, has been unlocked. Nai screams in fury, demanding how he dared ruin her face. She gathers all her power again and compresses it into a ball-like beam. MC attacks her at the same time. Nai fires back to counter him. A massive explosion tears through the room. Her own beam hits her too. The ground is wiped out in seconds, leaving only the strip where Cirrus stands. Even Bello and Tyr are badly shaken by the blast. When the smoke clears, he sees Nai lying unconscious and thinks he's won. But his system shows Divine Sword Descent is now on a 20-second cooldown. He runs to the altar, only to stop in shock. The magic altar is still working. He can't understand why it hasn't shut down. Then Nai's voice rings out. She asks if he really thought he had won, because she'd never let filthy humans touch the demon god's blood. Cirrus checks the cooldown, and sees 9 seconds left. He yells back that he'll finish her in 9 seconds. But then the protagonist glances at Bella, and sees her health is almost gone. She's right on the edge of death. Nai rises and shouts that as long as she's alive, she won't let him win. She calls him forward to see who triumphs, humans or monsters. Cirrus is trapped in a terrible choice: save Bello and Tyr, or stay and keep fighting over the demon god's blood. In the end, he chooses Bello and Mark. That means leaving Nai alone for now. MC quickly flies toward the exit. For a moment, Nai relaxes and thinks humans really are fools. Meanwhile, he orders the map to open and show the shortest path out. He has to reach a hospital as fast as possible, but the moment he gets out, monsters attack him. Cirrus immediately prepares to fight back. All this time, Bella stays unconscious. In her dream, she goes back to childhood, hearing everyone laugh at her looks and ask who would ever want to kiss her. Even then, she still wanted to play house. Instead, the other kids cruelly tell her she should play the gorilla. Then Cirrus walks up, and some children warn him not to get close or he'll catch her ugliness too. To everyone's shock, the protagonist slaps one of the boys. The story shifts back to the present. There, MC cuts down a monster with swift body slash. Back in Bella's dream, the boy he slapped is there, as he tells her the game isn't over. Since he's a boy and she's a girl, he says he'll be the dad, and she'll be the mom. He promises he'll take responsibility for her. In the present, after beating the monster, Cirrus tells Bella she'll be okay. At the same time, Nai looks at the altar and realizes it still needs more fuel to keep the temperature up. With no other choice left, she decides to sacrifice herself. Elsewhere, the protagonist keeps fighting through the monsters blocking his path. Back in the boss room, Nei throws herself into the altar as fuel and breaks apart. Before fully dying, she cries out to the holy demon god that she can no longer serve him herself. Meanwhile, Ceres battles a dragon monster and strikes with his sword, but right after he defeats it, the exploding garment divine sword disappears. His system says the enemy is dead, so the weapon has returned to the system. It won't be available again for 12 hours, but MC decides it doesn't matter, they're almost out. Outside the dungeon exit, he and his teammates finally make it out alive, and everyone is overjoyed. As the protagonist thinks about how close he came to dying in that underground dungeon, he remembers even his dragon-scale armor got destroyed because of that dam. He figures the protagonist should be dead by now, killed by the dungeon boss. Then someone spots MC coming back with Bella and Tyr in his arms, and yells that MC is still alive. That completely stuns him. The protagonist also turns grim when he hears it. He snatches a sword from a teammate, and demands to know how MC dared to trail them in secret and try to run. He asks how MC thought he could ignore his orders. As captain, he announces that he no longer deserves a place on the expedition team. He also says the guild won't waste any more medical resources keeping the protagonist alive. Then the protagonist yells that he'll settle it right now and gets ready to strike. But instead, MC suddenly kicks him straight in the face. Using him like a step, he launches himself forward. He says he has no time to waste on him. He drops unconscious, and the others stare in shock, shouting at him for attacking their captain. One of them panics, saying the captain passed out from the kick and needs to be taken to the hospital right away. At the guild hospital, orderlies rush Bella and Tyr in on stretchers, calling out that it's an emergency. Once Bella and Tyr are safely inside, the protagonist finally feels some relief. Then he decides to head back to the dungeon fast. He was only one step away from getting the demon god's blood to cure the poison. Back in the dungeon, a red liquid starts rising from the altar. Little by little, it lifts higher. Soon it begins forming a human shape. Sadiel watches the whole thing and wonders what boss Nei summoned by sacrificing herself. It turns out Nei had been living as Bio, and no one knew she was actually a girl. The red mass takes the shape of a dress, and then a hand reaches out from inside it. The moment it appears, the pressure in the room turns heavy. Sadiel goes stiff from the feeling. To her, it feels like countless needles are stabbing deep into her bones. A human-like monster steps out of the red mass and says this place feels strangely familiar, like it belongs to her. When Azathoth first appears, she has a boyish body with long hair like a girl. Terrified by the pressure, Sadiel tries to run, thinking this place has become far too dangerous. Azathoth senses Sadiel nearby and walks over to the wall, pressing it with one finger. That single touch makes the whole wall collapse. The monsters on the floor above are shocked and wonder why their level is suddenly blowing apart. Azathoth did it to expose the one she felt hiding there. After the fall, the monsters are all injured, and guess boss Nei might have done it. Then one of them shouts for everyone to look up. They can see the sky because the underground dungeon has caved in. They wonder if Nei caused it, but quickly reject that idea, realizing it would take power beyond boss possessed. While they're arguing, Azathoth cuts in and says Nei is dead, so now she needs a servant. The monsters tense up, unsure if they should flee or stay. One monster steps forward and says their line survived through great power, so they'd gladly serve someone even stronger than boss Nei. The rest quickly start begging to serve too. Azathoth snaps that they're all too ugly and wipes them out. She says she has no interest in ugly servants. Then she walks towards Sadiel, calling her pretty. Azathoth tells Sadiel to look up and open her mouth. With tears in her eyes, Sadiel obeys. Azathoth pours her blood into Sadiel's mouth and tells her to drink. As soon as she swallows it, Sadiel feels her body changing, like it's starting to heal on its own. Azathoth tells her that should feel good because her blood repairs damage, boosts the body, and makes the drinker stronger. She adds that while the blood is settling in, Sadiel may feel intense pleasure too. Then Azathoth says it's getting dark and tells Sadiel to find a clean room and wait for her. Not knowing what else to do, Sadiel just nods. The story then moves to the guild headquarters. There, Darren grabs Cyrus by the head and angrily asks what he meant about the mission failing. Cyrus apologizes and says that if he loses his captain's spot, Darren will have to take over and inspect what's left of the guild's investigation team. He begs Darren to find a way out, warning that if their secret sales of guild resources are exposed, they're in serious trouble. Darren shoves him back and tells him to shut up. He already knows that. Then Darren asks if someone on his team went missing. Cyrus says yes, and that person's name is Cyrus. Darren checks the file, sees Cyrus is only an F-rank hero, and orders that all blame be pinned on him. He says Cyrus should be executed for desertion. Back in the dungeon, Cyrus is confused when he sees the place has collapsed. He rushes to the altar, hoping his antidote is still there, but when he gets there, he sees it's gone. At the same time, Sadiel waits quietly for Azathoth. Suddenly, Azathoth places her hands on Sadiel's shoulders, and Sadiel nervously asks her not to do that. Instead, Azathoth hugs her from behind, leaving Sadiel frozen in shock. She feels something soft against her back. Since Sadiel thought Azathoth was a boy, the feeling throws her into confusion. Then Azathoth whispers in her ear, and Sadiel, flustered, slips out of the hug. Embarrassed, Sadiel turns around and is stunned. Azathoth now looks fully like a girl. Azathoth asks if she doesn't like hugs. Still confused, Sadiel asks how she changed like that. Azathoth says it's simple. At night she loses her power and returns to her true form, a girl. She also tells Sadiel that during the night, she must protect her and kill anyone who means her harm. Then Azathoth warns her not to attack or run. Since Sadiel drank her blood in the daytime, Azathoth can react with her blood and melt her body instantly, even at night. Sadiel has no choice but to listen. Elsewhere, Cirrus searches the whole dungeon for the demon god's blood, but can't find it. Still hoping it's hidden somewhere, Cirrus tells the system to open the map so he can check every part of the dungeon. Azathoth explains to Sadiel that she never wanted things to turn out this way, but her heart is sealed inside the Heroes Guild, so she can't stay complete. That's why she becomes a weak human at night. She says once daytime comes and the demon god's power returns, they'll go to the Heroes Guild headquarters and take back her heart. When that happens, every monster in the world will bow to her again, day or night. Suddenly, Sadiel hears footsteps coming closer. She moves to check who it is. Azathoth stops her and says that in any fight Sadiel must stay within 5 kilometers of her. If she goes farther, Azathoth will treat it like an escape attempt and dissolve her body. She asks if Sadiel understands, and Sadiel says yes. Meanwhile, Cirrus gets a message from the system saying the demon god's blood is in Neza's underground dungeon. He's glad to learn it really is there. Cirrus runs toward the room where Azathoth and Sadiel are, thinking it's the last room he hasn't checked. Before he arrives, Sadiel hides beside the door, ready to ambush him. She throws a kick at Cirrus, but he dodges it with ease. Sadiel is shocked when she realizes he's the same human she met that morning. At the same time, Azathoth suddenly feels strange as her body starts twitching. That usually only happens when she's near her heart. Sadiel asks why Cirrus came back when Nazal already dead, and tells him to leave before sunrise. Cirrus is shocked to see her body has healed enough to fight, then asks if she liked the mushroom-flavored snack he gave her. Embarrassed, Sadiel quickly says it tasted awful. She calls it the worst mushroom she's ever eaten, and tells him to get lost. But Cirrus's system shows her favorability is already at 71. That makes Cirrus happy, and he points out she's blushing, and likes him more than he expected. Before he can keep going, Sadiel kicks at him again, saying he's talking nonsense, and that she doesn't like him at all. She attacks again, driving her foot down hard enough to crush his face, or so she thinks. Disgusted, she says even having feelings toward a human would be vile. Then she suddenly realizes his body is gone from under her foot, leaving her stunned. When she turns, Cirrus is already running for the room. Sadiel can't believe he escaped after she stomped his face. Cirrus says he has something urgent to do, so they can play later. As he reaches the door, he senses the demon god's blood right behind it. Before he can open it, Azathoth opens it first. By accident, Cirrus grabs her chest. Startled, he realizes there's a human girl in the dungeon. The second he notices where his hand is, he pulls it back. Sadiel asks Azathoth why she came out. Furious over what happened, Azathoth grabs Cirrus's hand and squeezes hard. A flash of light suddenly bursts from that spot. Azathoth stares in shock as she realizes it's her heart. Then she wonders why part of a human was holding it. Cirrus shoves Azathoth back and nervously tells her to let go, asking what she's doing. Then his system reveals that the human girl in front of him is his god. Cirrus is stunned, unable to understand how his antidote turned into a human. Without thinking, he grabs her hand, cuts her palm, and drinks her blood. He drinks her blood, hoping it might work as the antidote. The moment Cirrus does that, Azathoth's body jerks, and she feels something strange. Afterward, Cirrus checks his system. The poison is still there, and his lifespan is only 101 days. Shocked, he wonders why her blood did nothing. Azathoth smiles to herself, thinking it makes sense now that she's human. Her blood can't help him. Sadiel cuts in and kicks at Cirrus's hand, yelling for him to let Azathoth go. He slips away from the kick and backs off with ease. Azathoth then starts wondering how her heart ended up inside a human and turned into an essence hidden in his filthy body. If she wants her power back, she'll have to rip that piece out of him by force. Once she does, his body will melt into blood for daring to use her without permission. Cirrus then wonders if some other fluid from her body might work as an antidote instead. First he decides to take her somewhere else and think about the rest later. But as he slowly moves toward Azathoth, something suddenly bursts up from below. It was Ghana, a boss-level monster. Excited, she calls out to Azathoth, saying she felt her presence from thousands of miles away. That feeling had shaken her whole body, and Ghana adds that she never removed what Azathoth gave her, a sign of her loyal love. Then Ghana asks if she can devour Azathoth now, saying Azathoth would belong only to her after that. Sadiel is stunned, and Azathoth goes tense. Then, out of nowhere, Cirrus scoops Azathoth up and runs for the hole in the wall. He leaps through it. As he jumps, Cirrus wonders how a boss monster showed up so fast. He decides the only thing that matters now is getting Azathoth somewhere safe. Ghana dives through the hole right after him, yelling for him to give Azathoth back and stop running. A few seconds later, Cirrus reaches the Heroes Guild, thinking it should be safe. He's relieved because it seems like he finally shook off Ghana. Sitting beside Azathoth in the hall, Cirrus tells her this is the Heroes Guild in Zone Z, his home. She asks where he brought her, clearly on edge. That answer makes her happy. If it's true, things just got easier. Once she gets her power back, she can wipe them all out for what they did with her heart. So Azathoth gets up and grabs Cirrus's face. Looking helpless, she says a terrible monster cursed her, and if she doesn't mate with a human soon, she'll die. She begs him to save her. Cirrus answers that he's a noble, righteous hero, and he would never take advantage of someone that way. Still, Azathoth climbs onto him, and with a pitiful look, says she's in terrible pain right now, and pleads again for help. That leaves Cirrus shaken. He can't believe he's stuck in such an embarrassing mess. Part of him says a true hero should never use someone's weakness like this, but then he thinks a hero also can't ignore someone who's suffering. So Cirrus reaches toward her, telling himself he's willing to suffer alone if that's what it takes to save her. At the same time as Azathoth leans in for a kiss, she thinks that once she pulls his essence out and gets her power back, she'll destroy every last one of them. But right before their lips meet, Cirrus notices something between her legs and asks, confused, if that's a tail and why it's there. Then it hits him. Tails are supposed to be in the back. If hers is in front, that's not a tail at all. It's a male private part. Realizing that, Cirrus freezes and shoves Azathoth away. Terrified, he scrambles backward, and Yug tumbles out of his pocket. Staring at Azathoth, Cirrus nervously asks why she has a sword between her legs. Azathoth moves in close, and in a teasing voice, reminds him that he already agreed to save her. She knows dawn is near, and her body is changing. Azathoth has two forms. By day, she becomes a boy, and by night she's a human girl. So she puts a hand on his leg and leans in again, saying he can't take back his word. Cirrus is completely panicked. Luckily for him, something unexpected happens. Yug starts to transform. Even Azathoth pauses, confused about what's happening to his pet. In seconds, Yug returns to her monster form and starts whining that she's starving. She begs Cirrus for help again, calling him her master. Cirrus quickly grabs the chance. He tells Azathoth Yug needs him more right now, so he'll help Yug first and come back to her after. Azathoth doesn't even know what to say. Meanwhile, Yug is annoyed that his pocket was too cramped to even stretch in. Cirrus rushes to the kitchen, saying he'll make Yug something to eat. Once there, he starts cooking, and uses it to buy himself time. Still, his mind keeps racing. If he doesn't help Azathoth, she'll really die, and he has no way to fight back either. So he starts wondering if he truly has to mate with her. Before long, he gets frustrated because he can't make up his mind. While he cooks, Azathoth sneaks up behind him, thinking she can just wait until morning to get her powers back. Cirrus notices her, but acts like he didn't. That makes Azathoth realize he has no intention of going along with her plan. So she decides that if Cirrus won't agree, she'll have to force him to do it. Without warning, Azathoth moves close and reaches for that spot, but Cirrus snatches up the food and runs outside to Yug. He says the meal is ready, and he has to help Yug first. Azathoth burns with anger because her weak human body can't overpower Cirrus. When MC steps out of the kitchen, he spots Yug's tail sticking out of the bathroom and goes to check. Inside, he finds Yug drinking toilet cleaner and stares in shock, wondering how she can possibly be okay. To his surprise, Yug is smiling and says it tastes great. In the next moment, Yug starts eating the food. Azathoth walks up to him and says he already fed Yug, so now it's her turn. He asks her to calm down and hear him out first. Instead, Azathoth snaps and yells that she doesn't want excuses, she wants it now. Right then, his system pops up with a notice that the weapon return time has arrived. Still worked up, Azathoth rips the protagonist's clothes to shreds, leaving him stunned and barely covered by a scrap of cloth. Blushing, she slowly moves toward MC. At the same time, his system tells him the mission is to run through the streets and wave at 33 people. He explodes, shouting that he'll never do something like that. Then the system warns him that if he fails, he'll be dragged back into Advanced Paradise in reverse. A door appears behind Ceres, and slowly starts to open. He waits nervously to see what's on the other side. When it opens, he's horrified to find a bunch of boy dummies calling for him to come play. The protagonist yells that this looks even worse than running through town half naked. He desperately tries to figure out how that tiny cloth can hide anything. It's too short to cover his waist, and the back would be wide open. Even if he stands there using both hands to block himself, he still can't wave at people. Frustrated and near tears, MC realizes he's doomed to be exposed no matter what. Without another thought, he bolts for the door and tells Yug to watch Azathoth, because he'll be outside for a few minutes. Yug is amazed to see Cirrus run out with almost no clothes on, and wonders if that's how humans go outside. Azathoth meanwhile feels gloomy because now she has to wait until morning. Yug offers her some toilet cleaner, saying it tastes good, but Azathoth flatly refuses. Outside, he uses the cloth to cover his face, deciding that's the best way to avoid being recognized. Then he heads for the barbecue plaza, knowing there should be plenty of people there. And things get even worse. When Saris reaches the plaza, Ghana senses him and shows up too. She's annoyed that he managed to escape her so fast. As soon as he gets there, the protagonist starts waving to draw everyone's attention. A girl spots him first and screams that a pervert is calling out for help. More people rush over, and in the chaos, MC slowly chips away at the mission. He manages to finish a third of it with only 7.5 seconds left. Soon, several men start chasing him for running through the city without proper clothes, as he heads toward an even busier area. Then the story cuts back to the protagonist's home, where Sadiel appears at the window. Yearling tenses up the second she sees someone there. Sadiel relaxes when she spots Azathoth, then warns them they're in the city of the Brave Heroes Guild. If they're found, it'll be dangerous, so they need to leave fast. But Azathoth says dawn is almost here, so hiding is pointless now. Then she orders Sadiel to find Saris. Once the sun rises, Sadiel is supposed to spill her blood on the ground, so Azathoth can track him. Sadiel agrees, and runs off to look for MC. As she goes, she wonders what will happen to him once the essence is taken back, whether humans really turn into blood. That thought leaves her uneasy. Then she suddenly hears people shouting, and looks down from above. Sadiel looked down and froze. Saris was running naked through the street while people chased him. Even so, he kept waving at everyone, leaving his pursuers confused. Then the system showed he had finished 2/3 of the mission, and he got excited. He only needed a few more greetings. Out of nowhere, a giant spider monster jumped in and attacked the people chasing him. Hearing the chaos behind him, the protagonist turned around. He was stunned by what he saw. People nearby started yelling for everyone to run and called for backup. Saris couldn't understand why a monster showed up right then, but he still chose to fight. When he tried to open the system, it told him that during the weapon return mission, everything was reset to F rank and system use was locked. That left MC completely baffled. Soon, an alert spread through the city that a monster had appeared, and everyone was told to evacuate. At the same time, a boy named Sam was shown holding a piercing spider by one of its legs. He shouted for someone to toss him a weapon. Instead, Saris ran up, grabbed Sam's hand, and congratulated him. Sam snapped, asking if he had lost his mind. Why was he greeting people in the middle of a fight, and where were his pants? Because of that interruption, Sam lost his grip, and the piercing spider lunged at him. An A-rank hero named Kajak arrived just in time and cut the monster down, saving Sam. Kajak mocked Sam, asking if even tiny spiders were too much for a C-rank hero. Charlton, the vice president of the Heroes Guild, was there with him. Charlton praised Kajak and said this still counted as field action, then pushed to escort him out fast. Kajak told him not to worry. With their security team around, no monster could reach him. Then Ghana appeared after sensing Saris's essence. The moment everyone saw her, the mood changed. Kajak quickly ordered the others to protect Mr. Charlton. He rushed Ghana with his sword, but she slipped past the strike and pressed her face against his hand. Almost teasing him, she asked if getting close was all he wanted. A second later, Kajak's hand began to melt, and the burning spread through his body. Screaming in agony, Kajak warned everyone not to touch Ghana. She laughed at how weak humans were for failing against a little poison. Another hero told the others to get Mr. Charlton out, while he held her off. Ghana only smiled and asked if he really thought he could hold her back. They had badly underestimated her. Meanwhile, Saris was just one person short of clearing his mission. Then another hero got burned by Ghana. Her poison killed him as she enjoyed the sound of his suffering. When his screams stopped, she complained she still hadn't heard enough. After that, Ghana slowly headed for Charlton, and he started begging for help. Saris stepped in and yelled at Ghana to stay away from Charlton. Then he told Charlton to look at him, and Charlton did. That finished the mission. The protagonist's clothes came back, and he immediately called up the system. The system gave him a choice of cards. Once he picked one, he got a weapon called the Silent Divine Finger. Its power lets him touch nearby objects and make the enemy feel it as if their own body was touched. If they scream from deep inside, the weapon's silent force activates. Seeing him, Ghana lit up and recognized him as the human tied to her lord Azathoth. She charged over, demanding to know where Azathoth was hidden. Saris said he'd hand Azathoth over. Ghana answered that she'd kill him first and find Azathoth herself. MC locked onto her as his target. When she came at him, he dodged and pulled away, brushing the ground as he moved. The instant he touched it, Ghana felt something strange. It was like someone had touched her body. The feeling caught her off guard and left her flustered. She cried out, and her scream value hit 12, activating the silent force. The backlash slammed into Ghana and stunned her with pain. Holding her chest, she wondered if Saris had really touched her there. The hit that came after her scream had to be his invisible skill. It didn't kill her, but it hurt. That confirmed what he could do. Ghana declared that both her body and heart belonged only to Lord Azathoth. Anyone else who touched her would die, and she swore she would never make that shameful sound again. Then she released all the toxins in her body and gathered them into one hand. She told the protagonist she'd offer his burned corpse to Lord Azathoth as an apology. Saris tensed up as Ghana attacked, promising he'd die painfully for touching her. He dodged the first strike, but Ghana kept chasing him and reached from below to grab him. Right then, MC put his hand on the ground and rubbed it. Ghana shrieked from the strong sensation in her armpit, and this time her scream value jumped to 43. A much stronger force crashed into her. The blow left her reeling, and Cerise also started wondering if what he felt really matched her armpit. Ghana, meanwhile, realized this hurt far more than before. She couldn't understand why she cried out again after promising herself she wouldn't, but this time the touch hit her armpit. It was so unbearably itchy. For a brief second she even felt pleasure, thinking that somehow Ceres could trigger sensations like Lord Azathoth. Ghana grabbed the bell Azathoth had given her, and sadly apologized, confused by her own reaction. How could a mere human stir feelings? She connected to Azathoth. To her, that was disgusting. Humans could never compare to Azathoth's greatness. She struck herself to clear her head, and after calming down, smiled and wondered if Azathoth would forgive her now. From Ceres' side, seeing Ghana hit herself was shocking, and he started thinking she might be unstable. Ghana told Ceres his attacks were weird, and said she was done playing around. Then she drew her sword. Watching her pull it out, Ceres couldn't help wondering where she'd been hiding it. He quickly thought through the pattern. First her chest, then her armpit against the wall. Based on distance and body proportions, he guessed the next key spot would be her back, so he suddenly ran. Ghana chased after him, shouting that it was too late to run now. She leaped at Ceres to strike, but he dodged. Ceres yelled that his agility was higher than hers, so she wouldn't catch him easily. Ghana said she already knew that, then fired a web at him. It wrapped around Ceres, and he struggled to get loose. Ghana told him he wasn't escaping, and moved in to kill him. But Ceres freed one hand from the web and touched the ground. As soon as he did, he figured out he was right. The sensation matched the inside of her thigh. Ghana grew tense again, stirred by Ceres' strange power. This time she covered her mouth with her hand, determined not to scream. Ceres tried to push the sensation further, but she refused to make a sound. She managed it. The scream rate only reached 1, so the force that hit her was weak. Ghana felt relieved. As long as she stayed silent, his attacks couldn't do much. Then she looked over and was shocked to find Ceres had slipped free of the web. From behind her, Ceres said he never claimed he was running away. Ghana smiled, calling that a stupid choice. She put something in her mouth and said she had already figured out all his moves. His last chance to escape was gone, and now she would crush him herself. When she lowered her hand, it became clear she'd sealed her mouth with spiderweb. If she couldn't open it, she couldn't scream, which meant Ceres' skill would be useless. Ceres asked if the spot she felt was the inside of her thigh. That made her angry and embarrassed. This filthy human was paying way too much attention to her body. Reading her reaction, Ceres explained that once he had her locked in, he worked it out using her body's proportions. Then he said the real fight started now. He was going to overwhelm her by attacking different parts of her body until he found the spots that drove her wild. Ghana thought none of that mattered now. She had already seen through his trick, and no matter where he hit, she would not scream. Ceres rubbed his hands along the walls. Ghana braced herself and endured it without making a sound. Even Ceres was surprised that she gave no reaction. But inside, Ghana was shaken. The feeling was different this time, deeper, like it reached from the bottom of her heart. Still, she endured it. In her mind, she clung to Lord Azathoth and refused to betray him. No matter how intense it felt, it still wasn't equal to Azathoth. Ceres rubbed the walls again, and then rubbed his hands together, telling Ghana to enjoy it. The sensation rushed straight into her mind, and Ghana started to feel herself getting drawn in. Off to the side, Charlton watched the whole thing, and noticed the female monster squirming again. He wondered what kind of trick could make female monsters let out sounds like that, and he wanted to learn it too. Meanwhile, Ghana couldn't understand how Ceres was doing this. The feeling was hitting her from deep inside, and it was stronger than anything before. Then she noticed Lord Azathoth's image in her mind starting to fade. That terrified her. She forced herself to stay focused, telling herself those thoughts had to stop. She belonged to Lord Azathoth. Ceres was shocked too. Even after all that, Ghana still hadn't screamed, so he realized it still wasn't enough. Ghana poured every bit of poison in her body into her weapon and charged at Ceres, sure she wouldn't go down that easily. As she came in, Ceres moved by the wall and rubbed his hands together, almost like he was telling her to watch what he could do. The moment he did, Ghana shook again and writhed on the ground, trying to endure it. The sensation hit so hard she couldn't move at all. She knew she had to kill Ceres fast, or Lord Azathoth would vanish from her heart, so she threw her sword at him with everything she had. But Ceres dodged it. Ghana expected that, so just before the blade reached him, she released the poison from it. In such a tight space, she was sure he couldn't avoid the toxin. When the poison finally cleared, Ghana thought the fight was over. At that range, Ceres shouldn't have been able to escape, and once her toxin covered his body, death should have been certain. Then Ceres' voice cut in. He told her that just like the spiderweb trap she used on him before, he wasn't going to fall for the same trick twice. Ghana looked up and was stunned. Ceres had jumped onto the roof. He yelled that now it was his turn, then dropped down into the narrow space below. As he fell, he dragged both hands along the walls all the way down. That made Ghana feel an even stronger wave than before, and it kept getting worse every second. She tried to endure it, thinking it would end in a few seconds, but the tall walls made it last much longer than before. Ghana panicked. Last time it ended in a flash, so why was it still going now? She kept begging for it to stop, but she had reached her limit. Right before she broke, she apologized to Lord Azathoth. She couldn't hold on anymore. Then she screamed with all her strength, and Sirris's system showed the scream value had hit 100. Even the locket Azathoth gave her shattered, and a huge blast burst out around Ghana. The explosion drained her magic little by little, until it dropped all the way to 0. Then she turned into a tiny spider. Sirris's system recalled the weapon, confirming the enemy had been defeated. Sirris walked over and picked Ghana up. His system showed her favorability had reached 100. It also said he had unlocked passive conquest, and after beating the boss, he gained that boss's special skill. The new skill was toxic fusion, which lets him coat weapons with strong poison. Sirris wondered if he could even use poison from his own body, the same way. The scene then shifts to Sadiel, who uses her blood to summon Azathoth. As her blood touched the ground, Azathoth vanished from the room, leaving Yug stunned. When he appeared, Azathoth was in human form. From here on, the story refers to him as a man. Azathoth immediately asked Sadiel where Sirris was. Nervous, Sadiel apologized and admitted she'd lost track of him. Azathoth was stunned. He explained that the human body he was using had once been her heart, and if he didn't get it back, he'd turn into a powerless human at night. Even so, Sadiel repeated that she had lost Sirris. Then, Azathoth heard noise from the city and sensed the system's power. He flew there without hesitation. Sadiel watched him leave in silence. Back with Sirris, his system showed a new skill called placement, which lets him send conquered monsters back home. When he activated it, Ghana vanished from his hand and appeared in Yug's room. Yug jumped when something landed on her head, then stared in shock after realizing it was a spider. Back on Sirris's side, Azathoth suddenly grabbed him, and before he could react, Azathoth locked up his head and pinned him down. Staring at him, Azathoth said he was disappointed. Sirris had promised to save him, then ran off halfway through, and that made him furious. Seeing Azathoth in human form, Sirris became sure of two things. Azathoth was really a man, and he was the one who lied to him about the curse. Azathoth admitted it. Sirris asked what he wanted, and Azathoth told him to keep the promise he never finished. Sirris flatly replied that he had no interest in men, so Azathoth changed his form and asked if this was better. Sirris slowly turned back and was shocked to see Azathoth now looked like a girl in a cat-themed outfit. He even said meow and asked if Sirris was interested now. Sirris shouted no. No matter what shape Azathoth took, he still wasn't interested, because Azathoth was still a man. Sirris tried to punch him, but Azathoth caught his fist and twisted it just enough to make him cry out. Still pushing, Azathoth said humans liked things like cat ears and black stockings, so they should have fun together. But even then, Sirris rejected him, which left Azathoth crushed. He then hinted he'd have to use harsher methods. Azathoth licked Sirris's finger, stunning him. Sirris, tense and disgusted, asked if he was serious, and told him not to do that. Azathoth only said he liked the taste and kept licking. Sirris tried to run, but Azathoth stopped him with his power, and made it clear escape was impossible. Then Azathoth rose into the air, saying he had passed the system's level long ago. If Sirris wanted to run, he could try. It would end the same way. Azathoth even asked if Sirris planned to lock onto him and raise his speed, but Sirris said he wouldn't use the system on a man. That crossed a line for him. Soon after, Azathoth lifted Sirris into the air and leaped over him. He said the blood in Sirris's body was his antidote, and acted like Sirris had wanted him all along. If Sirris behaved and followed his lead, he'd cure him. That made Sirris furious. He shot back that if getting the demon god's blood meant doing that with Azathoth, he'd rather let his body rot away. There was no way he'd do something like that with a man. Azathoth snapped. He called Sirris disobedient and said he needed to be punished. Then he threatened to force himself on him, until Sirris begged for it. Next, Azathoth touched Sirris's back, trying to pull the system and heart power back to their original owner. But the magic failed, and vanished instead. Confused, Azathoth couldn't understand why it didn't work. Sirris's system answered that it refused to return, which made all of Azathoth's attacks useless against him. Then, the system asked Sirris if he wanted to give up half his life for a chance to beat Azathoth. Sirris snapped back that in this situation, the answer was obviously yes. The system explained that if Sirris locked onto Azathoth, it would trigger Azathoth's Spear of Oblivion. After that, Azathoth would be fully absorbed into Sirris, and the poison would be completely removed. In exchange, Sirris's life dropped to just 50 days. Azathoth was stunned. He couldn't believe the system had truly refused to return to him. Taurus also realized that as long as Azathoth was within 10 meters and in sight, he could lock onto him. But before he could do it, Azathoth used his power, and red smoke swallowed the area around Sirris. Sirris was caught off guard. The smoke was so thick he couldn't even keep his eyes open. At that moment, Azathoth sliced his own hand, and the same cut appeared on Satiel's hand. Startled, she tensed up and wondered what was happening. A second later, Azathoth teleported to her. When he arrived, Azathoth was sweating and shaken, realizing he had barely escaped. He was furious that the system had refused to go back to him, and felt betrayed. Satiel, seeing him like that, had no idea what happened. Azathoth also realized the system had probably locked onto his location. Back with Cirrus, he was surprised the system had locked onto Azathoth, but even more shocked that Azathoth had moved that far in an instant. Satiel nervously asked if he was sweating because he had been hurt. Azathoth said no one in the city could injure him. Since she had drunk his blood, their bodies now resonated, so if he got hurt, the damage would pass to her first. That made Satiel tense, but she still asked about Cirrus. Had Azathoth dealt with him or not? Azathoth said no. He explained that his attacks no longer worked on Cirrus. Satiel reacted oddly and asked if that was really true. Azathoth then asked if she was happy Cirrus was still alive. She denied it, said she hated Cirrus, and suggested they return to the dungeon if Azathoth couldn't hurt him. Azathoth refused. He said he'd been with the system for thousands of years and understood it well. Sure, normal attacks no longer worked on Cirrus, but pleasure didn't count as an attack, so he believed he could still overwhelm Cirrus with pleasure until it killed him. He added that the system struggled to find a body that matched it, so once Cirrus died, it would have no choice but to return to him, and once he became human again, the system wouldn't be able to track him. Then Azathoth ordered Satiel to find Cirrus again that night. Azathoth asked Satiel if she had learned transformation magic yet. She said yes, so he told her to use it on him. While Satiel used the spell on him, Azathoth explained that once night came, he would lose his magic. That meant she had to keep the transformation active for him. When the spell was done, Azathoth had turned back into a girl. He was pleased with the result, and said Cirrus would never know it was him. He added that humans love playing hero, so they should let Cirrus save the damsel first, then he could strike when the time was right. Satiel asked if he could really get rid of Cirrus through pleasure. Azathoth said yes, then asked how she thought he had died. The hint was clear. He had also been brought down that way, and every time he remembered it, along with being cast aside by the system, his anger exploded. He shouted, demanding to know why the system had rejected him, and what made Cirrus so special. Elsewhere, Cirrus kept thinking about the 50 days he had left. If he could find Azathoth before then, he could cure himself and live, so he knew he had to move fast. Then his heart started pounding strangely again. Cirrus realized the poison in his body was flaring up again, and this time it spread to his feet. A sharp burning pain hit his little toe and he collapsed, screaming. Not long after, he passed out. Seeing him go down, Charlton rushed over, trying to figure out what happened. Sometime later, Cirrus woke up in a hospital. The ward boy noticed he was awake, got excited, and called for someone to tell Mr. Charlton right away. Cirrus asked who had brought him there. The ward boy said it was Charlton, the vice president of the guild, which caught Cirrus off guard. Just then, Charlton stepped into the room. He asked if Cirrus remembered saving him, the heavy man trapped by that giant piercing spider. Cirrus recognized him and said yes. Then he asked how long he had been out, and Charlton told him 13 hours. That shocked Cirrus. He guessed the long fight had completely drained him. Charlton apologized for being careless, and hoped he hadn't made things worse. Since he sounded sincere, Cirrus asked what the vice president wanted. Charlton said he had seen Cirrus fight the female spider monster, and was amazed by his magic. Cirrus then asked him to get to the point. Charlton admitted that with age, a man starts losing certain strengths and even his drive. But after watching Cirrus fight, he became deeply interested. He believed learning that power could restore him, and finally free him from the misery he'd lived with for 10 years. Cirrus still didn't get what he meant, so Charlton finally said it clearly. He wanted Cirrus to teach him that magic and accept him as a disciple. That left Cirrus stunned. The vice president of the Adventurers Guild wanted to become his student. He quickly saw the upside. If Charlton became his disciple, he could use the guild's resources to help track down Azathoth. The problem was that this power came from the system, so Cirrus had no idea how he could actually teach it. Even so, Cirrus asked if Charlton could handle a kind of magic that was extremely hard to learn. Charlton said difficulty didn't matter. He had to try. A master could show the path, but the rest depended on the student. He swore he'd do everything he could, even if it cost him his life. Cirrus then told him the magic he saw had to be trained from the fingertips first. At that, Charlton bowed deeply and begged Cirrus to accept him as a disciple. He also asked that this stay secret, since he was still the vice president of the Adventurers Guild. Cirrus agreed, saying he understood. Then Charlton's secretary, Daisy, appeared at the door and said she had something important to report. Charlton told her to come in. She handed him a warrant saying Cirrus had been found guilty of desertion and sentenced to death. Confused, Cirrus asked what that was about. Daisy read the charge. He had disobeyed the captain in the Cyrus squad, fled without permission, and caused the mission to fail. Charlton told Cirrus the situation was serious, but he would try to deal with it since Cirrus was now his master. Cirrus immediately said he hadn't run. He stayed behind to deal with the dungeon boss. Daisy answered that she had already looked into the squad's retreat. According to the report, Cirrus, an F rank, along with Bella, a C rank, and Mark, a B rank, had defeated an S rank monster. She found that hard to believe. Cirrus told her to send someone to verify it. Daisy said she already had, and the dungeon was empty now. Still, until the investigation ended, he would have to be kept under watch so he couldn't escape. Charlton cut in and said detention wasn't needed because he trusted Cirrus. Daisy reminded him that the rules said otherwise, so Charlton said he would personally take responsibility for supervising Cirrus during the investigation. Daisy then reminded him about the guild's appreciation banquet that evening. Charlton told her to let Cirrus come with him. Daisy urged him to rethink that, stressing how important the banquet was. After a short pause, Charlton told Cirrus he'd leave him alone for now and return that night to bring him along. Cirrus agreed. Once they were gone, Cirrus finally relaxed. Then he decided to check Azathoth's location. He was planning to go after him as soon as he could, but when he opened the system panel, he was shocked to see Azathoth was still in the city. Looking closer, he realized Azathoth was extremely near. After thinking it through, Cirrus was horrified to figure out the signal pointed to his own home. He ran there at once, tense the whole way, and when he got inside, no one was there. Moving deeper into the house, he found that Ghana was still there, but Yug was missing. Cirrus immediately concluded that Azathoth had taken Yug. The scene then shifted to Azathoth and Yug, who looked around in confusion and nervously asked where she was. Smiling, Azathoth told her they were at an auction house that sold both monsters and humans. Meanwhile, Cirrus raced toward Azathoth's signal. He noticed the marker hadn't moved for half an hour, which meant he was getting very close. Then the marker suddenly vanished, and Cirrus realized he wouldn't be able to track Azathoth at night. As he pushed ahead, someone attacked him. Cirrus dodged easily and wondered who was coming after him. Now, the attacker called himself Raka and said this area belonged to the Star Cavalry. He warned that any intruder, hero or monster, would be crushed without mercy. Hearing that name, Cirrus remembered the bandits famous for kidnapping people. The others got ready to fight too. Raka said the female monsters and women in their prison were probably bait used to draw people in, and there could be more heroes nearby. They decided to capture Cirrus and question him. Cirrus wondered if the female monsters they mentioned included Yuga. He thought this was the perfect time to ask whether they had seen a creepy male monster around. Then, his system popped up a warning. The weapon return mission would start in 2 minutes. That made him tense. If the mission began, his stats would drop back to their original F-rank level, so he decided to end this fast before the 2 minutes ran out. The scene shifted to Yuge, who was struggling to break free from her handcuffs. She couldn't, because they were sealed with restraining magic. She also said that without feeding on a male, her body had grown too weak, and she wondered if she should go back to where her master lived. Azathoth asked why. As a monster, she didn't just return to the dungeon. Yugits answered that as a Linglang lizard, she naturally depended on male essence. She had chosen a stronger man and liked human homes better than monster caves. She also said the wine in the bottle was incredibly tasty. Then both Yugai and Azathoth were startled by an explosion in the floor, and a boy came flying into the room. Cirrus arrived, relieved he had wrapped things up before the 2-minute limit. He said if they had given him the key earlier, they could have avoided the beating. Right then, his system gave him the weapon return mission. Slap someone's butt 10 times, until they made a sound. He had 60 minutes. Hearing that, Cirrus nervously went to the person he had knocked down and asked if he could still scream. Too late, the boy had already passed out. Cirrus realized he had hit him too hard. Azathoth then called out asking Cirrus to save them. Cirrus hesitated. They were out on the edge of town, where monsters could show up at any moment, and without the system's power, that was dangerous. So he decided to clear the mission first. He unlocked Yuga's handcuffs and smacked her butt, making her cry out. In a teasing voice, she asked what he was doing. Cirrus said that if they wanted to get out safely, he had to spank her, so she needed to cooperate and not fight him. Azathoth smiled to himself, thinking Cirrus really was a creep. For someone like that, a little flirting should be enough to hook him. He couldn't believe Cirrus had made up such a ridiculous excuse just to grope someone. Still in his girl form, Azathoth asked Cirrus to free him too. He promised that if Cirrus saved him, he wouldn't mind being spanked, and would even give himself to him. Cirrus agreed, but the second he unlocked the handcuffs, Azathoth leaped at him and clung to him, crying. He claimed he had been violently kidnapped and dragged there. He said he was terrified because they planned to sell him to goblins, then added that now Cirrus had rescued him. He belonged to him. The moment those words left his mouth, Cirrus smacked Azathoth's butt, but no sound came out. Tense, Cirrus asked why he wasn't screaming. Azathoth leans in and oddly enough asks Cirrus to do it one more time. He wants to refuse, but his system pops up first because Azathoth didn't make a sound. He's been frozen for 5 minutes. A second later, Cirrus drops to the floor, completely stiff. Yug crawls over, lifts his head and says she's in bad shape. She needs his blood and body essence right away, or she might die. But Cirrus can't do anything. The freeze has locked him up and even his eyes are starting to shut. Still, he barely forces them open and catches Yug kissing his neck. That makes Azathoth snap. She yells at Yug, calling her shameless for making a move when she wasn't looking. Azathoth tries to hit her, but Yug moves first and traps Azathoth with her tail. Yug fires back that Cirrus is her master, not Azathoth, and she got to him first anyway. Azathoth burns with anger, but there's nothing he can do. He thinks that if it were daytime he could have easily thrown Yuga aside, then decides to let it go. Right now, getting the system back matters more than fighting with Yuga. So Azathoth switches tactics, suggests the three of them get cozy together, and presses in close to Cirrus. Watching this, Cirrus starts to wonder if Azathoth was really forced into any of this. Why is she so eager to act like this with him? Above them, Sadiel watches in silence. She wonders the same thing and somehow feels what Azathoth feels in her own body. Azathoth says it's been a long time since she had this kind of fun. And as Azathoth keeps going, Sadiel feels those same strong sensations, and gets more and more drawn in. Then Azathoth tells Cirrus to bend his hand slowly and press a little. That hits Sadiel even harder. Her body starts going numb, and goosebumps spread all over her skin. Next, Azathoth reaches for Cirrus's private area. Cirrus instantly tenses, hoping she won't touch there. At the same time, Sadiel suddenly feels like she's holding something in her hands. The moment he feels that grip, Sadiel realizes it seems familiar. Looking closer, he figures out the one behind it is Sadiel. When Sadiel's expression turns furious, Azathoth is confused by the sudden change in his eyes. Then Azathoth understands. Sadiel has accidentally used that technique, which means his cover is blown. Growing nervous, Azathoth calls for Sadiel. As soon as Sadiel appears, Yug senses trouble and shrinks into her small form. She runs to Sadiel and begs him to protect her. Azathoth urges Sadiel to get him out fast, now that he's been exposed, and Sadiel gets ready to move. Sadiel is shocked that Azathoth really turned into a girl just to get close to him. He realizes he was lucky to catch on, but without his system powers he can't chase Azathoth down. By the time Sadiel is free from the freeze, Azathoth is already long gone. So he decides to finish his mission first and hunt him down after he gets the system back. From then on, especially at night, he vows to be careful with any girl who comes near him. The story then moves to a Z security gate. There, Daisy and the others are waiting for Sadiel. When he spots them, he's confused about why they're here. Then Song steps up and shows a warrant, saying Sadiel is under arrest for desertion and has to come with them. To Sadiel's surprise, Daisy cuts in. She says she's Vice President Charlton's secretary, and their investigation found the new dungeon empty, which goes against the charge. She adds that the revocation process has already started, so they can't arrest him now. She also says Sadiel is supposed to attend the guild's appreciation banquet later. Meanwhile, Sadiel quietly counts how many people Sung brought. Then Sung suddenly slaps Daisy and shouts that she's obviously lying, because only A-rank captains and above can attend that banquet. He says she's faking being the vice president's secretary, then boasts that he's the president, and tells her to get lost. He keeps threatening Daisy, saying if she doesn't stop causing trouble, he'll toss her into the interrogation room with Sadiel. Sadiel tells Daisy to go get approval from the vice president and bring the revocation notice to save him, sure that Charlton will help. He asks if she can do it in 20 minutes, and Daisy says 10 will be enough. He praises her and says he'll make them pay with a harsh punishment. The scene cuts to the interrogation room where everyone stands around Sadiel. Sung asks if he remembers how his right hand was injured, but Sadiel says nothing. Sung repeats his story. He bravely led the team against the monster Nay, but Sadiel attacked him from behind and ran. That gave Nye a chance to strike, and most of his squad died. He says he gave up his right hand to save the survivors. Then Song angrily demands an answer. Does a coward like Sadiel deserve to live or die? Sadiel answers that anyone who runs from the enemy deserves to die like an animal. That sets Song off, because he knows Sadiel is really calling him the coward, so Song tells one of his men to bring the hammer over. At the same time, Sadiel thinks 10 minutes should be up by now, so the secretary ought to arrive soon. But without the system, all he can do is endure this for now. Then Yug suddenly speaks to him. Confused, Sadiel asks what she means, and she explains that Sung can't really hurt him. She absorbed some of his blood essence, got a little magic back, and that's enough to block human torture. In return, she says, he'll owe her double once they get home. A moment later, Sung slams the hammer down beside Cirrus's hand, making him flinch. Sung tells him to choose which finger to start with, or he'll pick one himself. Just before he swings, one of his teammates cuts in and says this isn't the time. The vice president's secretary has arrived with Cirrus's revocation notice. The room goes tense. No one can believe the girl really is the vice president's secretary. Even Sung is stunned, wondering how an F-rank hero got connected to someone at that level. One of the men asks if they should release Cirrus, since torture after a revocation notice is illegal. They all start to move, but Sung stops them and says to bring the notice back after half an hour. Since he hasn't personally received it yet, he claims he knows nothing about it. Cirrus is furious at what Sung is pulling, and Sung, face set hard, shouts that Cirrus still has to pay. Outside the room, Sung's teammates say their captain still hasn't come out, and they don't have permission to enter. Daisy tells them to move. She'll go in herself and show the notice. But the guard stops her again, saying she can't come and go from the interrogation room whenever she wants. Inside, Cyrus brings the hammer down on Cirrus's hand, but to his shock, he isn't hurt at all. Cyrus can't understand it. No broken bones, no blood, not even a scratch on the protagonist's hand. Outside, Daisy is still arguing with the guard when Charlton suddenly arrives and asks if he thinks he has the right to block the room. The guard immediately stiffens and steps away from the door. Charlton kicks the door open and walks in just as Cyrus is about to strike Cyrus again with the hammer. Cyrus freezes, stunned, and nervously asks why the vice president is there. Charlton holds up the document and says it's the revocation notice for MC's arrest warrant. They are to release him at once. Cyrus quickly drops the hammer and agrees. Then they finally free him. Charlton says Cyrus abused his power as a captain by torturing a subordinate. If this gets investigated, losing his captain rank would be the least of his problems. Scared now, Cyrus argues that he never got the revocation notice before acting, and says his teammates can back him up. But none of them speak. They don't want to get on the vice president's bad side. Charlton angrily asks what Cyrus has to say now, and he has no answer. In his head, he's already thinking the only option left is to ask his brother for help. Then Cyrus stands and says he can testify that Cyrus really hadn't seen the revocation notice. He adds that he won't pursue the arrest itself, but Cyrus and the others need to bow and apologize to the secretary. Daisy just stares, confused about what the protagonist is doing. A few minutes later, everyone from the Crusade Squad is bent over in front of Daisy. MC stands there with a stick, and they all apologize. Then Cyrus snaps that they dared treat such a pretty secretary so badly, and starts smacking all of them on the butt with the stick. As the room fills with yells, Daisy blushes and smiles, thinking about him. They cry out that they were wrong and will never do it again. With that, the protagonist's mission is done, and he tells Cyrus the issue with Daisy is settled. Cyrus, tense, asks what he means. MC suddenly grabs Cyrus's hand and says, now it's time to settle things between them. Cyrus nervously reminds him that he said he wouldn't go after the arrest issue. He says this isn't about the arrest. It's about Cyrus smashing his hand with a hammer. As he says it, he squeezes harder. Cyrus starts screaming in pain, begging Ceres to stop, saying sorry over and over and promising he won't do it again. The protagonist simply says okay, then slams Cyrus's hand against his knee and breaks it. That leaves Cyrus's left hand snapped in the middle. His teammates panic and ask if he's okay. MC calmly says that now he's forgiven him. Charlton tells him that Daisy will take him to the banquet because he has to meet an envoy from the Holy See first. Confused, he asks what the Holy See is. Charlton explains, it's a church founded to wipe evil thoughts from the world, and its purification magic can remove any poison from the body. The scene shifts to the guild's appreciation banquet hall, where the Holy See saintess, Mia, has arrived. The moment they see Mia, two boys start talking about how revealing her dress is. A couple of guys whispered that a saintess probably shouldn't dress that way. Mia suddenly stopped and looked right at them. They froze. She had heard every word. Mia said their church exists to remove evil thoughts, and to do that, they first have to understand them. That's why people in the Holy See dress like this. Then she told the boys not to stare at her with filthy eyes. Charlton snapped and ordered the guards to slap them 10 times, and the two quickly begged for forgiveness. Mia stepped in and told him that wasn't needed. She said if those two were getting punished, then almost everyone in the room should be punished too. Everyone except the president. Charlton, surprised, asked what made him different. Mia said his mind was troubled, but his body didn't respond like the others, whose evil thoughts flared up right away. Embarrassed, Charlton said he was just pure-hearted and had self-control. The crowd started whispering that maybe the vice president was actually impotent. Outside the hall, Daisy arrived with Cyrus and told him this was the place. As they headed in, Cyrus asked if the Holy See's purification magic was really that strong. Daisy said yes, it was their special power. She explained that they could heal anything, from missing limbs to sickness and deadly poison. Because heroes face constant danger, guilds from every region had tried to work with them, but all had been turned down. Daisy added that they rarely used that magic, even on people who needed help, because of those people's evil thoughts. That made Cyrus think they might be able to cure his poison, so he knew he had to find them fast. When they entered, Cyrus noticed a crowd gathered around something, and asked Daisy what was going on. She said she had no idea. Charlton came over and explained that the saintess was testing who was worthy to cooperate with the Holy See. If someone passed, Zone Z's hero guild could become much stronger. Then Mia pointed to an object and said it was the Holy See's treasure, the sacred evil heart. She explained that once someone entered, the gemstones would show how much evil was in that person's heart. Working with the Holy See depended on having a pure heart, and no hero guild from any other region had passed yet. Everyone started asking what was inside, and how the test worked. Mia simply told them to go in and find out for themselves. Logan, Team 7's captain, stepped up first. He boldly said he'd try since his heart was pure, and he'd never done anything shameful. As Logan approached the test, Mia smiled. Once inside, Logan was shocked to find a catwoman, his biggest weakness. One look at her figure made him flustered. Then she suddenly moved right up to him. Logan stiffened, wondering when she'd gotten so close. She gave a soft meow, and that was enough to hook him. Totally charmed, he blurted out that she looked amazing, and he wanted to pet her. The Catwoman asked what exactly he wanted to play with, and Logan said her beautiful features. Disgusted, she told him to stop. Then she threw him out of the tent. He came flying out, yelling in pain after smacking his chin. The gemstone showed 88% evilness. Even Mia looked shocked. That number made it clear Logan was full of impure thoughts. The others got nervous too. With a number that high, whatever was inside the tent had to be dangerous. Next, Owen, the captain of Team 6, stepped forward and said he'd check it out himself. Sure, he could handle anything in there. But he was kicked out almost right away too. His gemstone reading came out to 92% evil thoughts. After that, one person after another tried and failed, all scoring above 80%. Mia started thinking this was a waste of time. Not one of them had a clean heart, and she doubted anyone would pass. Then Cirrus stepped forward and said it was his turn. Mia felt relieved, thinking he would be the last one. Inside, Cirrus was puzzled to see a Catwoman waiting there. She came closer to him and asked what he wanted to do. Instead of playing along, Cirrus put a hand on her face and pushed her back. He said he didn't like women coming onto him first, but in his head he stayed on guard. There was a good chance this was Azathoth again. Even the Catwoman was stunned, saying he was the first man who had ever rejected her like that. Outside, Mia stared at the gemstone in shock. It showed 0%, the first perfect result she'd ever seen. His heart looked completely calm. Inside, Cirrus still wasn't sure who she really was, so he asked the system to begin checking. The system asked if he wanted to lock onto the target and use Azathoth's Spear of Oblivion. Cirrus got tense. He only had one shot, and if he made the wrong move against Azathoth again, he was finished. Meanwhile, the Catwoman was confused. No man had ever pushed her away before. She could tell he was staring right at her, but there were still no evil thoughts in him. If anything, he seemed wary of her. She bit her finger, annoyed that his rejection bothered her even more than men who just covered her up. It felt like he was rejecting her charm itself, so she decided to make his heart race somehow. At the same time, Ceres looked for a chance to confirm whether she had any hostile traits. She suddenly lunged at him, shaking her chest to tempt him, and told him not to look at her so coldly. A warm, soft hug might help them get closer, but when she tried to hug him, Ceres dodged and slipped away. That made her even more frustrated. She rushed him again for another hug, and he sidestepped her once more. When she leaped into the air, hoping he'd feel her softness, he avoided her again. Ceres thought the angle might finally let him check for anything hidden under her clothes. So he moved opposite her to get a better look. As he got closer, his eyes landed on her chest, and he blushed without meaning to. Even so, he kept trying to confirm whether she was dangerous. The Catwoman noticed that even while dodging, Ceres never stopped staring at her chest. After that, both of them paused. She couldn't understand why he still had no evil thoughts. Ceres, meanwhile, was tense because he really couldn't stop looking at her chest. She demanded to know why he stared there, like every other man. His body reacted too, so why was his heart still clean? Why was he so calm? Ceres answered calmly that he was an honest man. He wasn't thinking anything dirty about her body. He said breasts were natural. They give milk and help life grow and survive. Ceres looked at them with nothing but gratitude in his heart. That answer made her blush with happiness. She felt a bright light from Ceres and started believing he truly was that kind of man. At last, she pictured herself as tiny compared to him, realizing the huge gap between them. The Catwoman told Ceres he had passed and could leave. Ceres was surprised she was really letting him go, and wondered if that meant she truly wasn't Azathoth. Relieved, he said goodbye and left. After he was gone, the Catwoman wondered if her training just hadn't been enough. Maybe that was why she couldn't charm him. Back in the hall, everyone was talking about how Ceres got 0%. To them, no man should be able to stay unaffected by a Catwoman. Mia said it was the first time she had ever seen someone with a completely pure heart. A little unsure, Ceres asked if that meant he passed, and if she could now use purification magic to remove his poison. Mia said yes and told everyone else to leave. Sometime later, only Mia and Ceres remained in the hall. Mia told him she would detox him now, and asked him to lie down. After he did, Ceres asked if there was anything else he needed to do. Mia told him not to move. She explained that the Holy See had given them purification magic, and each person used a different body part to cast it. Then Mia raised her right foot and revealed that her magic came from her feet. She cast it through stepping motions. She warned that while she was using purification magic, Ceres couldn't have any evil thoughts, or the spell would slowly lose its effect. Nervous, Ceres asked if that only applied to him. Mia said yes, explaining that when she became a saintess of the Holy See, her own desires were taken away. She told Ceres to fully relax because she would work from head to toe to check his condition. That was necessary to treat him properly, so Ceres agreed. Mia started moving her feet around his hand, adjusting it as she used her purification magic. Ceres thought she was trying to position his hand with her foot, so he tried to help by moving it himself. Mia immediately yelled at him not to move, and said she'd do it herself. If he shifted around, it could interfere with the spell. She then said the chair felt cramped, and asked to use his face as support. When she put her feet on his face, she carefully stretched her left foot toward his hand. Mia announced she was starting the spell, and the moment she raised her foot, Sirius felt pressure on his face. Then, to his shock, he found himself floating on water and wondered where he was. A foot suddenly came down from above and pressed onto him. Sirius tensed. The weight was heavy, so he pushed the foot away with all his strength. In the real world, Mia's foot was knocked back into the air. Mia tells Sirius to stay calm and not fight her foot, since that's how the treatment works. She says her purification magic is sending his mind into the injured part of his body. Once she pulls him out of the water, his finger should heal. Sirius says he's ready. So when her foot came down again, Sirius was ready this time. As it got close, he leaped up and grabbed her toes. Mia says she'll pull him out all at once, but something under the water snags Sirius, and he warns her that he's being tangled up. Mia tells him that's the poison inside his body. Then she tries to pull him up and tells him to hold onto her foot, but he can't get a solid grip, so he thinks about grabbing her dress instead. Mia catches that right away and calls him rude. Even so, Sirius clings to her foot as hard as he can. She keeps dragging him away from the poison roots. Even with her strong pull, Sirius notices it doesn't hurt at all. If anything, it feels oddly nice. Then his little finger suddenly turns hot. The second Mia pulls him out of the water, his little finger is back in the real world. When he opens his eyes, he watches it fully regrow and realizes the spell really worked. Mia then says she can feel another leftover trace and asks him to remove his shoes. Just like before, the missing part of his foot is restored too. Sirius is blown away by how strong purification magic is. After that, Mia says she needs to change her angle now that she's found where the poison is. She puts a chair between his legs and tells him to lie still. They need to work together to remove it. Then she places her foot on his private part since that's where the poison starts. The instant she touches it, Sirius is hit with sharp pain and wonders if it really exists. In the mental world, Mia pushes him underwater and explains the plan. He'll go down, drag the poison up, and once it surfaces, it will vanish and cleanse his body. Sirius snaps back that he can't breathe underwater. Mia tells him not to panic, wraps both legs around him and says this will keep boosting his strength so he can force the poison out. A moment later, Sirius notices he's getting bigger. When he reaches the deep sea floor, he sees red roots spreading out below and asks if those are the poison. Set on finishing this, Sirius heads for the roots to rip them out. Back in reality, Mia starts feeling strange, and the system shows 1% locked favorability. Somehow Sirius has made Mia his new target. Now she's starting to fall for him too. So the question is whether she can finish the detox, or if her own bad thoughts will ruin it first. In the end, Sirius still has to deal with Azathoth if he wants to cure the poison in his body. We jump back in right as the detox is underway, and the system suddenly locks Mia as the target, making her body react in a weird way. At the same time, the poison around Sirius starts fading. After Mia gets the shield up, she tells him to keep swimming down and break apart the poison inside him. Sirius dives deeper into this spiritual space, moving toward the poison center. Every tentacle that touches the shield gets destroyed, so he's making steady progress. It looks like he's close to the source, but even after what feels like a long swim, he realizes he hasn't gotten any nearer. He's covered a lot of ground, but the source still feels far away. Mia explains that distance works differently in body consciousness, so something that looks close can actually be very far. Meanwhile, Mia keeps rubbing her feet together to maintain the shield, but she's worried she'll wear herself out. On top of that, a strange pleasure is spreading from her feet. That makes sense. The system is locked, and her favorability has already climbed to 21%. But now things start falling apart. The shield begins to crack, and water starts leaking into the bubble. Sirius yells for the Saintess. Mia admits her purification magic is getting weaker, and she doesn't know why. Her favorability jumps to 47%, and she says improper thoughts are starting to appear. She hurriedly tells him to stop thinking about her like that, because his body is reacting, and the purification magic will collapse. By now, the whole situation is already slipping out of control, and Sirius gets wrapped up by the poison again, barely able to breathe. Mia pushes herself harder, trying to restore the shield and hold the magic together. But the strain on her face and her favorability rising to 69% shows she's close to losing it. Soon Sirius starts to drown, and right before he passes out, he wakes up in the real world. On the floor, he sees the Saintess wearing a strange smile. Her favorability has already reached 87%, and it's obvious the treatment has affected her in a very bad way. She even looks ready to keep going just to maintain the shield, while her mind fills with improper thoughts. Then the favorability rises again, to 91%. Sirius quickly calls her out, snapping her back to herself. She's shocked to see he already returned to reality, which means the treatment failed. Completely confused, she feels her heart pounding like it might burst. Unsettling thoughts and strange feelings hit her all at once. Convinced those impure thoughts ruin the purification magic, she's overwhelmed with shame and decides to keep everything secret, so the Holy Sea's honor won't be damaged. Then the Saintess says the session is over. Sirius asks if that means she can't remove the poison after all, but she shakes her head and explains that the Holy See can cure it. It just won't be quick. She says she'll tell him once she finds a way to reach the poison's source. Until then, she can still restore damaged limbs. She adds that he can come to the Holy See and ask for her anytime. then finally gives her name as Lilia. With that, she starts to leave. Cirrus is left thinking Azathoth may be the only real answer to his poison after all. Outside, Lilia hides behind a pillar, barely holding herself together as her body reacts wildly, and her urges spiral out of control. In the next scene, Cirrus gets kicked around by his older brother like garbage. The man is furious that his weak little brother failed such a simple job. Cirrus hurriedly explains that the president got involved this time, but his brother cuts him off and says he's done hearing excuses. Then he throws an envelope at Cirrus. When Cirrus asks what it is, he says it's a map to the A-rank dungeon, Shingo. Cirrus points out that Shia's boss is an S-rank monster, and since he's not even A-rank, sending him there is basically telling him to die. His brother reveals the dungeon was almost cleared already by heroes from K. They reported that the boss Shia was badly injured, and now even F-rank heroes could beat it. He secretly blocked that news though, so no one else knows the monster is basically helpless. This is his chance to claim the captain spot. Hearing that, Cyrus lights up and promises he'll handle it. But he's celebrating too early, because Shia is already being healed by Azathoth. Azathoth feeds the monster his own blood, and Shia recovers completely. It rises from the rubble like an enraged beast. After barely surviving, the monster lets out a deep breath. It quickly thanks Azathoth for saving it again, and swears to repay him no matter what. Azathoth gives a simple order: kill one human for him. Of course, that target is Cirrus, who is also searching for this mysterious figure. Later, the excited vice president praises Cirrus for what he's done for the guild. He says their Z area is now working with the Holy See, making them much stronger, and tells Cirrus to ask if he wants anything. Cirrus doesn't hesitate. He wants the captain position so he can choose which dungeon to enter. The vice president agrees right away. Cirrus says he'll go home, get ready, and leave the city by noon. With only 49 days left to live, he can't waste time. The vice president asks why he's in such a rush, since the guild is already short-handed, and promoting a new captain might take longer than that. Then the secretary steps in to help. She says she knows the process, and can finish it before noon. As a thank you, she wants to help the guy who gave Cirrus the beating he deserved. Later, Cirrus returns home. The moment he opens the door, Yoa greets him. She proudly says she cleaned everything and finished all the food too. Rubbing up against him, Yoa brags that with the house spotless, she's the perfect dream maid and deserves praise from her master. Cirrus awkwardly agrees, mostly because he doesn't want to get smothered. Then she asks if she can live there forever since she's so useful. Cirrus asks if she doesn't want to go back home. Yug acts like she doesn't even know what a home is, saying monsters only have lairs, not homes. She keeps squishing his face against her, and eventually Cirrus tells her she can stay. Still, he warns her to keep her monster identity secret. They live in a city full of normal people, and if anyone finds out, both of them are in trouble. The maid beams and tells him she's really good at staying hidden. Right then, her favorability hits 100, and the system says getting close to her now makes the stat gains double. She reminds him her job is done, so now it's his turn. Cirrus just stares, confused, and asks what she means. She brings up the dungeon, saying she took a bunch of hammer hits for him, and burned through a lot of magic doing it. Now she wants him to pay her back with twice the energy she used. Cirrus is fine with that, since sleeping with her will also double her strength. With the trip ahead, that's a pretty good deal for both of them. Next, the secretary is driving over, excited to reach Cirrus's home and hand him his promotion notice. At the same time, Cirrus is having his clothes ripped off by his strong maid, while she runs her hands over his bare body. She gushes about how amazing his body feels. Then she leans in even closer, and when she opens her mouth, she starts squeezing him hard enough to make him groan in pain, or maybe pleasure. The system starts flooding him with notices about all the stat boosts he's getting. Meanwhile, the maid feels power rushing through her and gets even more fired up. She keeps squeezing, and when he lets out a loud cry, her grip loosens right away, and she says sorry for getting carried away. Then the doorbell suddenly rings. Cerise figures it has to be the secretary bringing his promotion papers. He quickly tells the maid to hide. After she's out of view, he opens the door and sees the secretary there. He says he just got out of the shower, so she shouldn't mind him being shirtless. Just like he expected, she tells him he's been promoted to captain and gives him the ID card and notice. He thanks her and takes the papers. She also offers some fruit she brought, and he appreciates it even more since he's almost out of food. We already know why his food supply is so low, and Yog is listening closely. The secretary blushes and says he can ask her for help anytime. Yog clearly doesn't like seeing her master getting close to the secretary, so she steps out of hiding on the spot. The secretary freezes when she sees a tall woman with a body that's impossible to ignore. Cirrus is stunned too, wondering why Yug came out now. Then he realizes she's taken human form and wraps herself around him, calling herself his loving sister. As Yug hugs and kisses him all over, the secretary gets jealous. She grabs the fruit she brought, mutters a sharp goodbye, and storms off in a bad mood. Yug keeps going with her clingy act, which only makes the secretary angrier, so she throws the fruit into the trash. Later, Cirrus puts on his armor, and before leaving, gives Yug an important job: turn human, buy food, and don't get caught. With that he heads out, set on finding Azathoth no matter what. As he opens the door, he notices something on the floor. It's the fruit, along with a note that says, "Sorry for getting mad earlier." It's obviously from the secretary. Then we cut to Cyrus and his crew, all excited because they think they've hit the jackpot by beating the boss monster. Cyrus is especially smug. With the map from his brother, this trip feels way too easy. His men point out that about 10 A-rank teams tried Area K and failed, but they did weaken Shy a lot, so now this should be an easy win. Cyrus smugly says guild rules are simple. The first team to kill the boss gets all the resources. If the others left it alive, that's on them. Then a giant monster suddenly drops down. And yep, it's Cyrus, who just killed an A-rank rock giant and got the area map. Looks like his time with Yogg really paid off. Checking his system, he sees Azathoth has already gone deep into the dungeon and reached the boss room. Back with Cyrus, strange sounds echo around his group and put them on edge. He draws his sword at once and orders everyone to prepare for danger. Then to their shock, Cyrus steps out from hiding. Cyrus has no idea why he's here, and immediately suspects he wants to steal their win. So he demands to know what Cyrus is doing here. Cyrus answers calmly that he's here to kill monsters, same as anyone else. Cyrus then asks where the rest of his team is. Cyrus says he's alone and walks off, focused only on his goal. Cyrus starts shaking at the thought of Cyrus taking on an A-rank dungeon solo. What scares him more is the idea that Cyrus may already know Shia is weakened. He quickly rallies his party and pushes them to move faster. He can't let Cyrus reach Shia first and take the credit. Meanwhile, Cyrus opens the map in his system and it confirms the map is active. Another alert appears about a sword called Bunker Spectre. The notice says pulling that sword will switch the left and right paths ahead, and it can also turn traps on or off. At the same time, Cyrus feels sure he has the advantage thanks to his brother's secret map. It says a fork is coming. The right path is a dead end, and the left leads forward. He thinks he's ahead of Cyrus, not knowing Cyrus's system already told him everything. Cyrus rushes toward the right path, sure his plan is perfect. He thinks taking the left route later will lock Cyrus behind him, but his information is wrong. The moment he runs down the right side, he comes face to face with a huge dragon, and someone else is already there, beating it down. Cyrus is completely lost. His brother's map never mentioned a monster like this. The dragon roars and whips its tail around, smashing everything nearby. Rocks and debris fly everywhere as the adventurers barely avoid getting crushed. Then that fighter steps in again, pulls back a fist, and drives out a brutal punch that sends the huge dragon crashing down. The beast collapses dead right at Cyrus's feet. He can only stare, unable to understand how this woman killed something that big with her bare hands. After dropping the dragon, she rushes over to Cyrus and his team. She turns out to be Daphne, an S-rank adventurer from Area K. When she lands, she asks what area they're from. Cyrus looks nervous and says they're from Area Z. When Daphne asks if they came for Shia's dungeon too, he admits they did. Daphne points out that Area K never asked Area Z for help, so she wants to know if he's trying to compete with her. She makes it clear that fighting her would end badly for him. Trying to play it cool, Cyrus suggests they join forces and says it would be an honor to work with her. Daphne shuts that down right away. In her eyes, only the weak need help, and she's not weak. Then a message suddenly comes through her earpiece, asking if any heroes are nearby because dragons have appeared and backup is needed. She crouches low and before blasting off, tells them to go home. She saw how scared they were of the dragon, and she has no use for weak people getting in the way. A second later, she launches so hard the ground cracks beneath her. She shoots into the sky and disappears. Meanwhile, Cyrus is still shocked that she can actually fly. Cyrus, on the other hand, is still obsessed with killing the boss before she gets back, even after her warning. Even Cyrus can tell just how unbelievably stubborn Cyrus is. Cyrus quickly triggers the mechanism and brings down the massive stone gates. Sure, he sealed the area off. Now he believes no one can interfere, and his team will get the credit for the kill. Outside, Cyrus grabs the sword, and his mana starts draining fast. With a hard pull, he finally rips it free. That leaves him with only 3,530 mana. Then the whole dungeon starts shaking, leaving Cyrus and his men stunned. Now holding the weapon called Bunker Spectre, Cyrus takes the right path. Meanwhile, Cyrus feels sure they'll reach the boss soon since all the monsters nearby were already cleared out. But everyone goes silent when they run into B-rank beasts called Obsidian Claws, monsters that are clearly dangerous. Growling, they rush straight at Cyrus and his party. Back in Shia's boss room, Azathoth is there again with his servant. Azathoth looks tired and annoyed, mostly because he had to give Shia so much of his own blood, so he warns his pet not to fail him. Shia says he can feel all that blood boosting his power, and he's sure he can crush Cyrus when he arrives. The purple-haired girl asks Azathoth if Shia can really beat Cyrus, especially since Cyrus gets stronger in the middle of fights. Azathoth says this time is different. Every monster in this dungeon is male, so Cyrus won't get any help from female contact. Suddenly, a pack of wolves appears. Cyrus is eager to try out the edge of his new sword, even after the huge energy cost it took to pull it out. The system explains that slashing certain spots with the blade can trigger hidden traps. Cyrus spots those trigger points throughout the dungeon, and notices the first one right in front of him, ready to release a storm of arrows. He wastes no time and drives the sword into the trigger. Right away, a storm of arrows pours out and wipes out the wolves like nothing. Only one beast is still standing. Cyrus stays cool. He sets his feet and swings and cuts the wolf clean down. But the second he finishes, another one leaps at him. He grips his sword tighter and slams it down on the monster, while Cyrus's party gets torn apart by the same kind of wolves. He finally understands these things are way above B rank, so the only choice is to run. But when they reach the entrance, Cyrus remembers he sealed it himself. Now they have nowhere to go. The wolves close in fast, and these idiots are seconds from getting eaten. Cyrus orders his men to hold them off, while he checks the map for a way to open the gate. His men scream at him to hurry before they become wolf food. But Cyrus is lost. The map only shows how to shut the gate, not open it, and all he can do is panic. At the same time, our guy is surrounded by those same monsters. As they rush him, he jumps from his spot and lands past them. Then he notices another trigger near his left side. As the beasts charge again, he strikes the trigger. A huge stone slab drops from above and crushes the wolves flat. Meanwhile, the gate in front of Cyrus opens, and his group bolts for it. The monsters keep chasing them, and one even bites onto Cyrus's leg, nearly finishing him off. At that exact moment, our guy yanks his sword free from the trigger. The stone slab starts rising again, and the route Cyrus was using shuts once more. As the slab moves, it smashes the wolf on his leg. That finally frees him from its jaws. After killing the last few monsters, our guy admits this sword is pretty useful. Then the system tells him to turn right, and he keeps going, leaving dead monsters behind. Cyrus barely survives, but he still won't quit. What scares him most is Cyrus getting to Shia first. If he comes back without killing the boss, his brother will make him pay, especially after giving him the map. Then he notices the monsters here are already dead, and the path matches the map exactly. It's enough to tell him he's finally on the right route. He fumes, thinking his brother gave him a bad map, even though the paths changed after our guy pulled the sword. A little later, they reach another fork. The map says go right, but they hesitate. Trying to be clever, Cyrus chooses the left path instead. Another bad call, because the map was actually right. Meanwhile, after a bunch of turns, the system tells our guy he's reached the boss room. There he finds Shia, who's surprised to see him holding the bunker scepter. That means our guy is stronger than expected. But he ignores the monster's chatter. His mind is on clearing this room and finding Azathoth. Then Shia says he'll take our guy's head to his goddess. Hearing that, he stops and asks if Azathoth is actually a woman. Shia starts praising her. Huge chest, perfect skin, and a scent that's clearly female. Our boy spots another trigger and slashes at it. A giant axe bursts out of the floor and flies straight at Shia, but the monster doesn't panic. With one casual motion, he breaks the huge weapon apart. Cyrus is stunned that this monster shattered it without even using his own blade. After crushing the axe, Shia roars and lunges at our guy with full force. He's furious, demanding to know how anyone could insult the goddess by calling her a man. One strike from the beast snaps our guy's sword in half, making it obvious this monster is no joke. Still, our guy doesn't panic. He says now it's his turn. He uses swift body slash and moves so fast he disappears, then shows up behind Shia to hit him from the rear. But Shia is no pushover. In an instant, the attack gets blocked like it was nothing. Then we see why it wasn't Shia turning around, but a clone that appeared in front of our guy and stopped the strike with its giant blade. The clone instantly hurls that massive sword at him, so hard the floor cracks under his feet. Shia brags that Goddess Azathoth boosted his power so much that killing our guy will be easy, and he's not wrong. Our guy is already struggling under that crushing blade. While he's locked in place, the other clone swings at him too. Before that hit can split him in half, he kicks off the ground and breaks the clash. Even so, the blade clips his foot and sends him flying into a wall, hard enough to crack it. The two monsters just laugh at him. He's still alive, but now he's seriously wondering if he can beat Xiaobei with that clone in the way. Elsewhere, Cyrus and his team are getting crushed by a giant stone knight. Just as whiny Cyrus is about to get smashed under the thing's huge foot, something slams into its head and blows it apart. It's the same woman from before. She asks Cyrus if he's the one who called for help. Cyrus is so shaken he can't even answer, so she asks him one more time. Terrified, Cyrus blurts out that yes, he called because he was about to die. The second he says that, Daisy kicks him right in the face. That sends the bastard flying. Then she tears into the whole group, calling them useless trash from Area Z. They act like heroes, but shake in fear the second monsters show up. As she keeps going, Cyrus is already out cold. She tells his men to grab their garbage captain and get out. They quickly drag him away and leave. Then she notices something farther ahead. Crouching down to jump again, she remembers the intel. Room 3055 should be at the southernmost point, at 37. To get there faster, she launches herself forward and smashes through 10-foot thick walls like they're made of paper. Back in the boss room, our guy is worn out and close to collapsing. Even so, he has to keep fighting. Nothing is working, and he's getting thrown around without doing much damage. He needs a power boost, and the only way to get one is with a female nearby. Luckily, that may not matter now, because Daisy crashes right into the fight. Seeing him there, she wonders what someone from Area Z is doing in this room. She tells him to get out because he's clearly no match for the boss. He refuses. The boss is stronger than he expected, so he asks her to help. That only annoys her more. She's too proud to team up with someone she sees as weak. But then he says the magic words, "Lock the target." Daisy is still acting bossy, but those words start affecting her mind. Even though she wants to kill him, she slowly moves closer. Before long, they end up kissing hard. That gives him the boost he needed, and the favorability jumps to 77. The moment Daisy realizes what she's done, she pulls back in shock, totally confused by herself. Then she starts yelling again, saying he stole her first kiss and she won't forgive him. At the same time, the monster swings at Cirrus. With his new power, Cirrus avoids the attacks with ease. Then he jumps in and slashes at the monster, cutting across its throat. Even the monster can tell Cirrus got stronger. Daisy is still trying to understand why she kissed him, and feels torn about it. She's shocked, but she also liked it, and the warmth still lingers on her lips. That pushes the favorability up to 85. Suddenly the monster turns and swings at Daisy. Cirrus warns her to stop spacing out, and before the strike lands he shoves her away. The blow smashes the wall above them, and Daisy's armor takes the hit too. Her chest starts slipping out of the broken armor, leaving her completely embarrassed. Cirrus warns her. She almost got cut down and tells her to stay sharp. The monster swings again, but Cirrus catches it with his damaged sword. He keeps covering for Daphne, and her favorability climbs to 88. With her armor ripped away, Daphne freezes as a sharp jolt runs through her body. As the favorability jumps to 92, Cirrus keeps getting stronger, and even the monster notices it. At the same time, Daphne's body reacts harder. A tingling spreads lower, and her legs start to give out. It's a feeling she's never had before, and she's scared her whole body might go weak if it keeps going. Her favorability shoots up to 97. That only makes it harder for Daphne to hold back these overwhelming urges. She refuses to be a burden, and her pride won't let Cirrus keep saving her. After getting knocked back again, Cirrus asks for her help, and admits he can't beat this thing by himself. Daphne stays stubborn, saying teaming up goes against her rules, since she's always fought monsters alone. Still, she offers one idea. There are 2 monsters, so each of them can take one. That way she can fight beside Cirrus, without calling it cooperation. Hearing that, Cirrus steps up next to her, and in a strangely honest moment, pulls her close and tells her that with her beside him, he feels like he can beat anyone. Daphne is breathing hard as that tingling comes back. Her favorability hits 99, and she struggles to stay focused while this new urge to fight with Cirrus keeps pulling at her. Elsewhere, Azathoth is in terrible shape, throwing up and complaining that his body is giving out. His servant panics and asks if Shia still hasn't finished off the human. Back with Daphne, she can't understand why she wants to work with Cirrus so badly. She used to do everything alone, but now she feels a strong pull to fight by his side and maybe even hold him. At the same time, Azathoth gives Sadiel a red pill, saying he can't wait any longer for Shia to kill Cirrus. He explains the pill holds his blood spirit and tells her to give it to Shia. Once Shia swallows it, Azathoth can take over his body and powers. With Shia's cloning skill, he thinks he can fool the system's mark. The body will only hold his power for a few seconds, but in that short time, he plans to forcefully take back his heart, no matter the risk. Sadiel looks at the pill sadly, wondering if Cirrus is going to die here. That sets Azathoth off, and he demands to know why she cares about some human. Sadiel quickly says she doesn't care at all. Humans only disgust her. Back in the fight, Cirrus is still trading blows with the crazed monster. His sword is nearly destroyed, and several ribs are already cracked. Just when he's about to get hit again, Daphne jumps in and saves him. She knocks the monster's blade aside with her bare hand. Cirrus is thankful, but he also notices her pressing against him before he can think any more about it. The monster then blasts them away, and Cirrus ends up trapped under Daphne's chest. That sets off those strange feelings in Daphne again, and as her reaction grows stronger, Cirrus gets another boost to his defenses right when he needs it. The monster starts preparing its strongest move yet, planning to crush both of them at once. Cirrus gets a nosebleed, overwhelmed by how soft she is. Daphne worries she hurt him with her weight, so she quickly gets off and apologizes. The monster finishes charging a massive energy ball and fires it straight at them. The blast burns through everything ahead of it, tearing through the walls and leaving a giant hole behind. The 2 clone monsters grin, sure they just wiped the heroes out. But they were wrong. Daphne stops the huge energy ball with one hand. The impact destroys the rest of her armor. She turns and asks if he's alright. Cirrus says he'll live, though a few ribs are broken. Daphne warns him he has no chance against Shia, and says if he keeps going he'll die. Then she makes it clear this fight is hers now, and she's ready to drive the monster back alone. Even so, she can't get rid of the urge to touch him. She wants to grab him and pull him close. Part of her wants to feel in control. She tells him her blue armor is gone after that last hit, leaving her fully exposed, and she doesn't want the monster staring at her chest. Since she can't cover herself and fight at the same time, she shyly asks him to hold her breasts for her. Even as she says it, she's struggling inside. She reminds herself she's an elite hero with top training, but that discipline is starting to fall apart under these urges. Meanwhile, Sirius is still trying to stand through all his injuries. Then Daphne decides she's figured it out. She tells herself this isn't desire, just a convenient excuse, even though she's clearly lying to herself. In the end, she reaches out to pull him close, saying it's her duty to protect him. Her favorability finally reaches 100, and the system says close contact will double all of his stats. Right as she pulls him in for an embrace, the monsters attack again. But their blows hit nothing except the floor because Sirius has already jumped away with Daphne in his arms. Her body reacts even more strongly now, and she feels a burning inside that's stronger than ever, as desire takes hold of her heart. She clings to him tighter, and the softness makes his nose start bleeding again. But that heated embrace gives him a huge surge of power. When they land, she insists she's only holding him because he's hurt, and she needs to protect him, so he shouldn't get the wrong idea. Sirius answers that they're both doing the right thing, and any sacrifice is worth it if it helps bring the monster down. Meanwhile, the monster creates even more clones, bringing the total to 4. Sirius stays as close to Daphne as he can, wanting every bit of strength her embrace gives him. Then we cut to Sadiel, still staring at the red pill while Azathoth's warning echoes in her head. Since she drank his blood and synced with him, she'll die too if he does. Azathoth tells Sadiel that once he gets his heart back, she'll gain great power, join his group and feel the highest joy. He orders her to find Shia, and Sadiel says she's on it. Azathoth adds that whenever she closes her eyes, she can see through the blood spirit. Then he asks if she dislikes hugs. Sadiel says she's not used to physical contact, so there's no need. Azathoth laughs and says he wasn't offering anyway. Only a worthy demon king gets that, and Sadiel is too annoying. She's just a useful watchdog, so she should get moving. Sadiel lowers her head and wonders if he's even grosser than that human. Back in the battle, Daphne tells Sirius to hold on tight as Shia rushes them. She spins and slashes at its legs, but when she turns back, another monster is already charging in. As Sirius clings to her, the system shows their defense and every other stat rising. Shabe roars and leaps in to cut them down. Daphne grabs the huge sword and struggles to hold it back, while Shabe laughs and pushes harder. Then the system announces that she just leveled up and entered berserk mode. The force shakes the ground and Sirius can barely move as his stamina drops fast. Shabe yells that it will kill them all to earn Azathoth's love, and even if it loses some power, giving up one physical clone is worth it. Its 3 monsters gather a giant mana ball, and Daphne realizes that without her armor she's in real danger. Xiaobei eagerly dares both of them to survive the attack. What Xiaobei doesn't know is that Sirius has just reached level 25, with all his stats massively boosted. That lets him break free from Xiaobei's hold. Sirius pulls back his fist and drives it straight into Xiaobei's stomach, sending the monster smashing into the wall. Sabil is stunned to see Xiaobei get launched away like that. Daphne drops to the ground, drained, but Sirius stands in front of her and tells her not to worry, he'll protect her. The 3 monsters charge up another huge mana ball and fire it at them, but Sirius is ready. He swings his level 25 fist again, knocks the blast away, and sends the monster flying back too. Daphne stares in shock at how strong Sirius's punch has become. Seeing that red glow in their eyes and fists, Sadiel can only stare in silence. Elsewhere, Azathoth orders Sadiel to feed the mushroom to Shia at once, but Sadiel has had enough, and shouts that she never wanted to be part of Azathoth's harem. She pulls out a blood spirit, and tries to attack Azathoth. A rock suddenly smacks Azathoth's hand, and he realizes Sadiel has fully betrayed him, but in the next instant, Sadiel's hand is cut off, and the blood spirit slips away. Then an Azathoth clone bursts out from the red cloth and grabs the orb. Xiaobei opens wide, and the clone quickly forces blood magic into his mouth. The second Xiaobei swallows it, he leaps up, his whole body locks up, and Sirius has no idea what's wrong with him. At the same time, Azathoth rises as mana swirls around her. A moment later, her body starts copying itself. Soon, clone after clone fills the area and boxes them in. Sirius is stunned. The system says every Azathoth there is the real one. Even the map is useless. Every marker shows a true presence. Azathoth mockingly says she needs to pull the heart from the protagonist's body. Hearing that, Daphne charges her at once, but one clone catches Daphne's punch with ease. Then it flicks her aside like she weighs nothing. Daphne slams into the stone wall and blacks out. Sirius learns he gets only one shot to use Azathoth's Spear of Oblivion. Azathoth smugly explains that every clone is part of her real self, and the system can't help unless he destroys them all and finds the true one. MC says nothing. Azathoth smiles with total confidence, and asks if he still plans to fight her. Then the system announces he is fully immune to her attacks. That's because her clones have already pinned his arms, and she says she never meant to harm him anyway. Instead, she presses him into her chest, trying to drown him in pleasure. With the clones holding him tight, he can't break free. Another clone walks over and mocks his system as useless right now. Then she grabs his vest, ready to rip out his heart and give him what she calls a pleasant death. Sirius shouts that he'd never want a witch like her. She only laughs, saying his body will answer for him, once she tests that. Azathoth opens her mouth, ready to bite, and the protagonist cries out in panic. Out of nowhere, Sadiel jumps in and smashes the clone away. She warns that Azathoth can keep those clones out only for a short time, so Cirrus has to stay out of their hands. He slips free from the clone's grip. Now he quickly thinks through his next move. Azathoth demands to know why Sadiel is helping MC when they'll both die if his heart isn't taken. Sadiel says she owes the mushroom a favor, which only confuses Azathoth more. Then Sadiel says plainly that she wants him to live, though the truth is he is controlling her with max favorability. Azathoth moves to kill Sadiel, but Cirrus activates his system. In an instant, Sadiel is teleported right in front of Yug. Yug is shocked to see Sadiel suddenly appear in her room. Sadiel is just as shocked that Yug is still alive. Meanwhile, Azathoth doesn't even realize Sadiel is gone. Her focus stays on Cirrus, as he struggles to hold the Shei sword. She laughs, saying no weapon can touch her, and she'll crush him with raw power alone. But the protagonist suddenly swings. He cuts down one clone, then vanishes before the others can respond. Azathoth keeps bragging that his attacks mean nothing, and since he has the system, her own attacks can't hurt him either. But Cirrus was never trying to beat her there. He just wanted to avoid her strike. He tells her she's wrong if she thinks that move will work on him. Swift Body Slash only has a 10-second cooldown, and she failed to notice that. Grinning, Azathoth lunges again, saying he has nowhere left to run. She calls him back to her arms and promises him a blissful death. Omsi targets another clone, and slips away from her grasp again. Azathoth freezes. It's only been a few seconds. She can't understand how he's still using the system. Cirrus explains that the system treats each clone as another version of Azathoth. That trick is how she fooled even the system's creator. Since every clone counts as a separate person, he can keep marking them and spam Swift Body Slash to dodge forever. If she wants to catch him, she has to destroy all her own clones, or stay stuck in this endless game. And that's bad news for her, because she's the one running out of time. Azathoth goes still as that sinks in. For a moment, she thinks about fleeing and finding another body. But as the god of monsters, she can't accept the shame of running from a weak human. Even so, she knows the fight is turning against her. If this keeps up, he will beat her sooner or later, so she decides to use everything she has. A bright beam shoots up to the ceiling, and Cirrus watches closely, unsure if she's trying to escape. Then all of her clones turn pink. Using the protagonist's cloning power, she breaks her body into countless tiny pieces. Those fragments gather, then burst out into the air. Cirrus stares in shock. Azathoth just destroyed herself. Before she vanishes, she unlocks new waifu spirits and grants them blood spirit power. She orders them to kill any human who comes after the fragments, then rebuild her in the end. And just like that, Azathoth is gone. The system gives Cirrus a new quest. Gather her fragments to slow the poison. He only has 48 days left to live. Then a sheep's head suddenly drops in front of him. MC wonders if the rest of the body was destroyed too. The system says the head has no value, and asks if he still wants to store it. Cirrus agrees. A moment later, he hears Daphne coughing. He helps her back up. Daphne realizes Azathoth dropped her with one simple move, and that hard truth really shakes her. As they leave, worried guild members, including the captain, start asking what happened. The captain sees him walking beside Daphne, and can't believe he survived. Right away, he starts thinking about using Daphne's success to save his own title. He walks up, assumes she killed the monster, and asks her to help cover for him. Daphne coldly asks what exactly happened in there, and says no one else can hear about it. Earlier, Tiffany had warned Cirrus not to tell anyone the details. If he did, she'd beat him up. After that, the protagonist was left thinking about how sharp her mouth was. Meanwhile, Tiffany walked away overwhelmed, unable to stop thinking about MC or what she'd done. Back in the present, Daphne tells the captain the mission failed because of her. He starts sweating. He never expected even an S rank to lose. Realizing Daphne is far stronger than he thought, he decides to dump the blame elsewhere, and Ceres can feel trouble coming. The captain points at him, claiming he held Daphne back and caused the mission to fail. Daphne instantly slaps him flat to the ground. After that, she tells the protagonist she's fine and doesn't need help getting back. Later in the conference hall, they discuss the failed mission. The panel asks the captain if he understands how serious this is, but he tries blaming Ceres again. Judge Blaze cuts him off and tells him to shut up. He wasn't allowed to speak yet. One more interruption means prison, and lying will make things even worse. Then Judge Blaze orders him to explain exactly why the mission failed. The captain claims they failed because they couldn't kill Xiao, then blames MC for it. At the guild hall, he opens his storage and reveals Xiao's severed head. Everyone there is stunned. Still, the captain keeps going. He says the protagonist chased glory, led the team the wrong way, and got people killed. He claims he lost his leg saving others, and says the protagonist always freezes in front of monsters. But the truth is the people near MC are the ones trembling. The captain calls him weak, says he never follows orders, and insists that's why he's still F rank and unfit to be a hero. Judge Blaze then strips the protagonist of his rank and orders his arrest, saying Xiaobei could attack the city and a level 2 alert must be raised. Even then, the captain insists he would have beaten Shay, if Ceres hadn't been there. Right then, MC bursts through the door and throws Shay's severed head. It slams straight into the captain's face. The hit leaves him bruised and swollen. Then the head drops in front of the panel, shocking everyone. They start asking who threw it, then notice Ceres quietly walking away. Judge Blaze calmly tells the captain to repeat what he said before. Shaken and humiliated, the captain begs for a chance to explain. Later, as he heads down the stairs, Liu approaches and says the high priest wants to see him. She adds that they may have found a cure for his poison, so he needs to come now. At Banlier's manor, Daphne trains hard, but her thoughts keep drifting back to Ceres. She hits the punching bag so hard it bursts. Even that doesn't calm her racing mind. Daisy teases her for needing help from an F-rank hero after coming back from the dungeon. She reminds Daphne that she always bragged about doing everything alone. Daphne snaps back, asking who let Daisy in and telling her to leave. Daisy just calls her a grumpy big sister and jokes that all that anger will ruin her skin. Then Daisy pushes more, asking how Ceres managed to break through Daphne's walls. Daphne tells her to stop sticking her nose in. Daisy says she rushed over as soon as she heard Daphne failed the mission. Then she adds that while most people grow their minds too, all Daphne seems to have grown is muscle. Daphne fires back that she's not so sure about Daisy's brains either, and it's obvious her body didn't develop much. Daisy goes silent for a second, before yelling for Logan to handle her, but Logan politely refuses, saying he can't hurt an older sister. Daphne tells them to come fight her themselves, and grabs a heavy iron bar. Daisy turns away and calls that a dumb idea. Logan follows her, but Daphne swings first. Suddenly Logan's arm swells into a huge monster limb, and he easily blocks the bar, crushing it like it's nothing. Daisy feels the mood shift, and asks what just happened. Logan casually crushes the bar into a tiny ball, and calls it annoying. Daisy just shrugs and keeps walking. Daphne is left frozen in shock. She had never seen Logan do that before. For the first time, she wonders if Daisy really could steal Ceres from her. At the gates of the Holy See, Libel tells Ceres he's the only one allowed in. Just as he starts to enter, she calls for him to wait. When he turns, Libel quietly admits maybe she just wanted a little more time with him. Inside, Ceres finds a table set for two. Waiting for him is Seraphine, the Holy See's top priestess. She swings a leg over a chair and tells him to sit. She says she wants to talk face to face. Ceres hesitates, then sits. Seraphine calmly says she already knows the poison in his body came from Azathoth's blood, leaving him stunned. She explains that blood can empower monsters, but it melts human flesh on contact. Somehow, his body fused with it, though it's still killing him little by little. Ceres admits she knows a lot about his condition. Before he can say more, she plants her foot over his mouth and warns him not to interrupt. That catches him off guard again. She says if monsters ever taste his blood, it could cause a disaster. So to stop that, she's decided to consume him herself. Ceres jumps back in shock. He can't believe she means eating him, even though they're both human. Then his eyes go wide when she lifts off the ground and tentacles spread from her body. She says that even if she's a monster, she's still on humanity's side, and for mankind's future, she has to consume him. Wanting to live, Cyrus locks onto her. Several system cards flash in front of him. He picks one. It's the Angel of Bliss gloves. The moment he puts them on, a shockwave ripples out, and he realizes hitting the right spot will trigger his ultimate move. Cyrus just stares at Seraphina in total confusion. She holds up a glowing pink piece of Azathoth, and says this power is the only thing that can keep someone alive in this world. Without pausing, she starts absorbing the fragment. Power rushes through her. Her veins swell and twist, and mouths start forming at their tips. Ceres watches in horror, as even the ends of her veins turn into mouths. In her mind, Seraphina enjoys the power. She pictures herself devouring Ceres, then using that strength to rule every human city. People would live like cattle under her laws, which she calls the Holy See. Anyone with evil thoughts or who refuses to obey would be eaten and purified. She wants a world with no evil or corruption. Ceres gets angry. This isn't protection, it's control. He refuses to become her food, and raises his golden glove as its light grows brighter with his resolve. Seraphina only smirks, amused that he thinks he can escape her. Before he can act, her veins whip toward him, and the fight starts. Ceres dodges on instinct. As they trade blows, he realizes those vein attacks are part of her body. He lightly tests one to see how sensitive it is, but the result is awful, just one. He grips the glove tighter and keeps testing its power. More veins strike, but he slips past them with the glove's help. Even so, he only leaves a tiny scratch. A one charge isn't enough, so he needs a weaker spot. At the same time, Seraphina's veins curl in and drag him toward her, lifting him until they're face to face. She studies him coldly, deciding where to start eating. Then she notices blood running from his shoulder. She leans in and drinks it. The feeling makes Seraphina sick, and it shows all over his face. She smiles to herself, thinking his blood tastes strong, anti-toxic, and close to Azathoth's. No monster could resist it. His blood makes her veins swell even more. Furious that she's getting stronger, Ceres knows he has to break free fast. While she's busy drinking, he slowly reaches out. His hand brushes her chest, and the sensitivity reads 15. Better, but still not enough. Serafina looks down and asks what he's doing. She says she's about to eat him, and he's still trying to touch her. Her disgust is obvious, but Cirrus has already figured something out. If she has a true weak spot, it has to be the place she can't guard well. He doesn't see another choice. With a serious look, he raises his hand powered by the Angel of Bliss gloves. This is his best shot. If he hits the right place, he'll pour everything into it. Cirrus reaches her private area and finds the weak point. She threatens to break his hand, but he keeps going. The sensitivity shows 11, then 14, when he tries again. Enraged, Serafina kicks him away hard. She exhales sharply. Cirrus is rattled. Every charged touch sends out a shockwave and drains him. So if he wants real damage, he has to stay close and keep contact. Serafina growls that he's beyond annoying, shaking off the pain still running through her legs. She says he's shown no respect on her ground, and what he did is unforgivable. Her power lashes at him, but Serafino's 14 still won't break through, so he decides to close the distance instead of just dodging. Serafina strikes with a vine packed with yellow energy and slams him hard. Serafina knows he still has to push in and stay on her if he wants to save humanity. Caught off guard and hurting, he staggers back. Serafina is shocked as he gets thrown away, surprised by the way he counters. He lands badly, then quickly activates the Angel of Bliss glove and touches her again. Her skin feels stiff, and the sensitivity is only 6. Furious, Serafina yells at him to let go and calls him an idiot before kicking him even farther back. Serafina knows he needs to get away fast before she swallows him whole. He figures that 6 charge is at least enough to launch himself back. Wide-eyed, he notices a mouth on one of her vines, so they really do have mouths. A second later, her veins wrap completely around him. She mocks him for giving up on attacking her vines, and asks if he's already done. No matter what he tries, she says, he's still going to end up inside her. Grinning, she admits it's been a long time since she's tasted anything like this. Trapped inside the living vines, Cirrus feels their slimy mucus all over him. Serafina suddenly winces in pain, asking what he's doing inside her veins. The sensitivity jumps to 25. She quickly throws Cirrus out, and he slams onto the floor. He feels sick as slime spills everywhere, and the smell is horribly strong. Then he notices the sensitivity is 25, just a quarter of 100. Since she has 4 vines, he starts thinking each one might add up. If he's right, touching another vine should raise it to 50. Feeling the effects, Serafina thinks the daisy she threw away is coming back. If this keeps up, she may lose her purification magic. She knows she can't let Seraphimes reach that special place inside her again. Furious, she decides to kill him and consume him once more. Her vines split open like jaws, turning into hungry plant-like maws. They rush at Cirrus. Grinding his teeth, he realizes one of them is the same vine that spit him out, and now it's much faster. Then 2 vines lunge from both sides and catch him off guard. Still angry, he decides to test the sensitivity again. He jams his hand into one of the vine mouths, making Serafina cry out in pain. But when he checks, it still reads 25. Serafina screams at him to stop messing around inside her and get back. Calling him disgusting, she smashes him with her huge purple tongue and makes him bleed. After the hit, Serafina grabs the tongue and dodges, but the level stays at 25. That tells him the real weak point must be somewhere else. All 4 vines snap toward him at once. Serafina shouts that he'll crush them all, then readies his bliss gloves and moves to dodge. When the gloves touch a locked target, they build charge and fire off a shockwave blast. It hits Serafina hard. She realizes his right hand is what triggers that wave attack, and each hit makes it stronger. Serafina starts thinking the weak point isn't in the vine mouths after all, but somewhere else on her body. He knows he has to get closer to find it, so he rushes straight at her, ready to risk everything for humanity's freedom. If winning means checking every part of her body, he'll do it. Serafina burns with anger, unable to believe he can sound so heroic while saying something that outrageous. Seraphirus charges in with red glowing eyes, and that catches her off guard. He says he'll start with her chest and reaches for it. Suddenly Serafina releases a thick cloud of purple smoke with a horrible stench. Seraphirus jumps back, shocked by the smell, and wonders if she's hiding something with the smoke. He panics because his Angel of Bliss glove still isn't charged. Now he has to rely on raw strength, but something feels wrong. He's getting dizzy. The smoke might be affecting him. Then her vine tongue shoots out of the smoke and stabs toward his heart. He tries to catch it, but it slips away at once. She retreats back into the smoke before he can reach her. Hidden inside, Serafina laughs and tells him he'll soon be paralyzed and cold. After that, she'll control him completely. In the smoke, Serafini feels his head spinning and his body getting heavier. Then he realizes something. His right hand is what unleashes the lightwave attack when he touches her. She's trying to keep that hand away from her. That makes him suspect one of her vines may still be wrapped around it. Another vine lashes at him. He thinks it's a fake out and that the real attack is coming from the left. Is she aiming for his left hand? Instead, her move gives him the perfect opening to reach out and touch her. After striking his left arm, her vines slam him into the ground. Serafina says his body is tougher than she expected. She thought that bite would be enough to ruin his left arm, and after breathing so much of her poison gas, he should be close to dropping already. Inside the foul purple smoke, Cirrus coughs while her vines keep attacking and biting him. With a cruel grin, Seraphina says she'll rip off his left arm, swallow it slowly, and savor every drop of his blood. Her vines keep gnawing at his left arm, until it starts bleeding badly. Cirrus then reveals the shockwaves come from his gloves, not from his right hand. So he quickly makes up his mind and shoves his hand into Seraphina's vine, making her cry out in pain. The pain level jumps to about 25%. A moment later, he yanks his hand free, and a burst of yellow energy fires out. As Cirrus charges his bliss gloves, he rushes Seraphina for another strike, still thrown off by how strange her body is. She looks mostly human outside, but inside she's something else entirely. He reaches for her chest, searching for a hidden weak point. From what he knows, creatures like her often hide nerve-heavy spots in odd places. The second he touches her chest, he realizes the sensitivity there is 38. Seraphina quickly throws up a hand to stop him, realizing he's getting dangerously close to her neck. Enraged, she snaps at him to back off and slams him with a hard kick. That blow sends Cirrus crashing down. He's shocked her chest only scored 36% sensitivity. Then his body fires back on its own with a bright burst of light. A huge yellow blast erupts, and Seraphina catches the threat at the last second, steadying herself and dodging the blast. The impact rattles the ground and throws debris everywhere, proving how powerful the hit was. Far away, someone in California notices the disturbance and starts wondering if there's a fight going on inside. Cirrus just sits there with his head in his hand, completely worn out. The pink smoke is finally gone, and his head is clearing too. Seraphina laughs, saying his attack barely scratched her. She even claims his blood made her defenses stronger. Cirrus realizes that even at 36% sensitivity, he still hasn't reached her true body. He needs her weak spot now. If she drains much more blood, he's finished. He runs through every place he hasn't checked yet, trying to figure out where her real sensitive point is. Then he remembers something odd. During her last attack, she targeted his foot. Going for his neck would have made way more sense. A memory flashes back, her scream, her hand in his hair, and their first meeting. Back then too, she chose his foot instead of covering his mouth. That makes him suspect her hand is her real weak point. As if she knows what he's thinking, Seraphina wraps herself in vines and says she won't let him near her again. She tells him to stay still and let her drink his blood. Right then, another girl appears and asks if Seraphina truly plans to drain Cirrus. Calling her High Priestess Seraphina, she questions what she's doing. Seraphina is stunned to see Lilia. She demands to know why she's still here and orders her to stay out of it. Lilia reminds her of their deal. If detox failed, Seraphina was only supposed to seal Cirrus inside the Holy Seal. Letting him die was never allowed. Under Holy Seal law, a Sanctus cannot harm any living being. Even sealed away, Cirrus could still escape someday. Seraphina argues that eating him is the safest choice. She brushes off the rules and says if Leo eats Cirrus, she'll gain enough power to control everyone under the Holy Seal. Then Seraphina could rise higher, and Leo could become the next High Priestess, as long as she stays quiet. But Leo refuses. She says she'll report everything to the Holy Seal, and tries to take Cirrus with her. That pushes Seraphina over the edge. Calling Leo stubborn, she decides to kill them both, and sends her vines at her. Cirrus jumps in front of Leo and shoves her out of the way. The vines meant for Leo slam into Cirrus instead. When he touches them, the sensitivity reads 32%. He fires a light wave blast right away, but Seraphina can tell he's slowing down, and his body is near its limit. A brutal hit to the stomach sends Cirrus to the ground. He props himself up with one arm, groaning. Then he realizes the blow damaged his insides, and the pain is almost too much to bear. Leo drops beside him and presses her foot to the wound, using purification magic. She says it'll slow the bleeding, wake up his nerves, keep him conscious, and ease the pain. Cirrus feels it working, and begs for more, but she refuses. She explains it's only an emergency spell, like a caffeine boost. Too much, and his body will go numb like anesthesia. Then he won't be able to do anything. Seraphina attacks again with her vines. They grab Leo, and Seraphina warns that she doesn't want to kill her. She offers one last chance to walk away quietly, saying Cirrus isn't worth risking her life for. Leo doesn't hesitate. Cirrus isn't just anyone, he's her patient. By Holy Seal law, once you choose to help someone, you protect them to the very end. Seraphina looks at Leo trapped in the vines, and says she'll make Cirrus fall right in front of her. At the same time, Cirrus keeps dodging and notices the sensitivity level is only 2. Then Seraphina suddenly grows dizzy, and the vines chasing Cirrus pull back. Seeing her open, Cirrus makes his move. He unleashes a massive lightwave blast at her, and grabs both her hands tight. At once, the sensitivity shoots to the maximum, and the display shows her weak spot has unlocked the ultimate move. When Cirrus seizes Seraphina's hands, she struggles and screams that they belong to Lord Azathar. She tries to pull free, but his grip is too strong, and she feels pain as her hands swell, with vines bulging under the skin. Cirrus watches them start to change, and Seraphina realizes that as a Galea carnivorous plant, all her sensitive nerves are in her hands. The pain hits her like a shock, and she drops, begging Cirrus to let go. He doesn't, and the vines around them start releasing impurities. Watching closely, Leo realizes the High Priestess's body is packed with toxins. Cirrus is purifying Seraphina from the inside. Seraphina mutates into a monster, and swears she'll rip out Cirrus's heart. Terrified, Cirrus tries to move but finds his hands paralyzed, and he suspects Leo's magic caused it. Furious, Seraphina insists eating Cirrus is the only way to save humanity. Cirrus refuses and releases a massive shockwave. The power from his bliss gloves is so huge, it blows apart the whole building, and even strikes Leo, who stares in shock at the magic he just used. Clutching his face, Cirrus mutters that the recoil was so strong it cracked his teeth. Then Cirrus and Leo watch as Seraphina changes back into her original form, a giant carnivorous plant. Sagiris stumbles, gasping, and says something feels wrong. Then he collapses into Leah's lap. She panics, calls his name, and checks his forehead. His body temperature has dropped dangerously low. He used too much power, and if she doesn't treat him fast, he'll die. She gently lays him down and places her glowing foot over the injured part of his body. Focusing hard, she says she'll start by healing his internal organs. Suddenly, Sidri stirs and notices the water around him has turned to sludge. Confused, he asks what's going on. Leah calmly explains that the sludge is the physical form of his injuries. It means his body is in critical condition. He tries to move, but the heavy sludge pins him down. He complains that it's freezing, even colder than before, and he can't move at all. Leah keeps channeling purification through her foot while watching the sludge shift and darken. If she doesn't deal with it, it could freeze him from the inside, so she starts rubbing it away with her foot before it hardens. Sagiris lets out a slow breath and starts to relax. Then a glowing message appears, saying the target has been logged. Leah stays focused and tells him to breathe and calm down. Her purification magic needs a clear mind. If dark thoughts creep in, her healing weakens and could fail. She has to finish before that happens. Sagiris says he feels warm again and tries to sit up. Leah pulls back slightly and tells him his internal injuries are healed. Now she only needs to restore his strength. She raises her foot and gently presses it to his lips, showing they're in the final stage of treatment. With his mind still hazy, Sagiris imagines a chocolate cake and starts eating on instinct. Leah stays fully focused. She tells him to finish every bite, because she won't let this spell fail. To her, this is more than healing, it's proof of her faith, and she's sure she can save him completely. Then another message appears, showing favorability has reached 51. Sagiris keeps licking her feet, saying the cake tastes amazing. Leah winces, clearly bothered, and tells him to stop using his tongue. Then a message pops up, showing the lust index has hit 60. She's worried by how fast his muscles are absorbing energy. They're already starting to cramp, and if this keeps up, he'll wake up sore and drained. She realizes she has to cool him down fast before it gets worse. As the lust index rises, she realizes this is the best time to help him. His body is extra responsive, and the sensation can reach him fully. When she steps closer, Sagiris flinches and says no. Leah keeps telling him not to fight it, saying it's a key part of the treatment, and uses her other foot. The lust index keeps climbing, and she starts to feel uneasy. She realizes her purification magic is starting to weaken, so she reminds herself to stay calm and push away dark thoughts. Sagiris suddenly says he still hurts a little and asks Leah to hold him. Blushing hard, Leah tells him to hurry and finish because she can't keep this up much longer, and the lust index climbs again. Sagiris keeps licking her foot. Leah lets out a nervous laugh and says he's really using his tongue now, and it tickles. Then she realizes she can't keep thinking about that, so she forces her mind onto the church's teaching: cleanse desire, reject lust, and stay balanced. By holding to those words, she pushes the bad thoughts away and keeps herself pure. Because of that, the lust index starts to fall. Once Cirrus finishes, Leo pulls her feet back and tells him the treatment is done, though the magic is still working and bringing the lust index down to 67. Cirrus stands and asks if it's really over. Leo says yes. A rush of power hits her, and she realizes her purification magic has grown a lot, maybe even doubled. She understands that healing Cirrus made her magic stronger again. As Cirrus stretches, he says all his wounds are gone, and he feels great, praising Leo's magic. Hearing that, she starts thinking this boost might help her become the next archbishop sooner than she thought. She tells Cirrus to come to her for treatment from now on, even for small injuries. He agrees. The story moves to the Holy Church, where a huge hole has wrecked part of the building. Charlton arrives with Daisy, who stares in shock, and he wonders if a demonic beast caused it. Charlton walks over to Cirrus and Leo, then asks what happened and whether they were attacked. Cirrus admits they still don't know everything, but the archbishop is definitely gone. He also points out the carnivorous plants Cirrus has. Leo says they'll need to wait for the next archbishop before moving ahead, but they can still discuss their partnership for now. That catches Charlton off guard, and Leo explains that once the new archbishop agrees, a lot of the process can be skipped. He sighs and says that's their only option. Cirrus steps away and says they'll handle it from here, giving Charlton a quick goodbye. But before he leaves, Charlton calls him back and tells Daisy to drive him home and update him on the warrior guild. Cirrus looks curious and asks what's been happening. Later, as Daisy drives, she steals a quick glance at Cirrus before looking back at the road. She explains that a strange demonic beast entered the city and only targets warriors. Cirrus looks confused, so she says several A-rank warriors are already dead. Their bodies were drained of blood, and each one had their genitals mutilated. Cirrus is stunned and repeats the part about the blood being drained, trying to make sense of it. Daisy nods and adds that the bodies also have strange marks carved into the skin, almost like beast language. The message reads like "not you," so it seems the creature is hunting one specific person. That makes Cirrus wonder if the blood-sucking beast is actually after him. Daisy says they're trying to keep people calm, and Daphne from Zone D is leading the case. She's already tracking the demonic beast. Just then, a girl named Sethel appears at the window, muttering curses. Inside, the white-haired Yogo looks up in surprise and asks why she's back, reminding her the place is full of vendors and soldiers. She also asks if Sethel plans to stay. Sethel quickly says no. She tells Yogo this is the enemy's base, and if they get caught, it'll become a huge problem for the human, which she wants to avoid. Yogo laughs and teases that Sethel knows transformation magic but won't share it. Sethel looks confused and says she can only change other people's appearance. She also needs somewhere safe to hide, because going outside is too dangerous. Yogo just stares at her, puzzled. Then blood suddenly starts dripping from Sethel, and she collapses. Yogo looks up and calls her out for faking sickness to get attention, saying she won't share her master. As she says that, her thoughts drift back to when Cirrus saved her. At that moment, Cirrus and Daisy come in through the door. He asks Daisy to explain the vampire beast case from the start, then tells Yog he's back. Daisy notices Yog and says her name sounds cool. Yog mutters about yet another girl showing up with her master, then quickly lifts Sethel to hide her. Cirrus opens the door wider, and Yogo greets them, saying it's good to have them back. He nods and invites Daisy in. As they enter, Yogo watches in confusion. Daisy gives her an awkward smile and says she hopes she's not interrupting anything. Yogo's red eyes flicker as she figures it out. To her, another woman just means more trouble, and she sighs, unsure what to do. Cirrus hands a carnivorous plant to Yog. Meanwhile, Daisy sits there without her shoes, thinking carefully. She doesn't want to make the same mistake as last time and let her feelings take over. At the same time, Yog quietly grumbles that she needs to get rid of Daisy because the woman is getting too close to her master. While serving food to Cirrus and Daisy, Cirrus asks how the vampire beast got into the city. Daisy says the giant dragon Beagle down south is about to wake up and destroy everything nearby. With fewer warriors available, the vampire beast slipped in. She also says that when she gave Cirrus the captain's badge last time, she was in such a rush that she forgot something important. Cirrus asks what she forgot, and Daisy explains that as the secretary to the vice president of Zone Z, she has to record every warrior's preferences and living conditions. She gives him a form for a personal promotion survey. Cirrus looks it over and asks why it includes questions about a spouse, wondering if he really has to answer everything. Daisy says yes, all new captains must complete it and send it to the guild. She stresses that details matter because they can affect the team's evaluation. Cirrus sighs and agrees to fill it out, while Daisy secretly hopes this will bring her closer to him. Then a sound comes from the other room, and Cirrus wonders how someone else ended up in Yog's place. He gets up to look, with Sathiel following behind, clearly not in good shape. He asks if she's injured, but she panics, wondering if that woman saw her. If she did, warriors might come after her, and she'd be forced to fight. Cirrus tells her she can't kill Daisy, and says they'll find another way. Sathiel glares and asks why not. Does that woman matter to him? He pauses, then promises he'll make Daisy leave after he finishes the form. Back outside, Daisy asks Yog who's in Cirrus's room, and Yog says it's his older sister. Daisy's eyes widen, and she starts wondering if she's already fallen to third place in Cirrus's heart. Inside, Sathiel warns that the woman has to go, or she'll be forced to deal with her. Cirrus calms her down and says he'll handle it. Then Daisy hears a scream from inside and asks Yog if they should help. Yog shakes her head and says Cirrus can manage, and if Daisy goes in, the other girl might bite her. Sathiel suddenly rushes out and slams into Cirrus as he walks in. He asks how she can hit that hard even while injured. He gives Daisy the completed form and asks her to turn it in at the guild. She nods shyly, then asks if he wants to eat at a really good restaurant outside. Both Cirrus and Yog are caught off guard. Yog shoots Daisy a sharp look, while Cirrus awkwardly asks if that would be okay. Yog suddenly grabs some food from the plate and reminds him it's time to eat. Cirrus looks confused, wondering when that became the plan. Blushing a little, Yog places the food against her chest and pulls Cirrus closer, softly telling him to eat and stay until he finishes. Daisy stares wide-eyed, while Cirrus is too stunned to move. He finally takes a bite of one cookie and asks what it's made from. She casually says snake liver and bat wings, but insists it tastes good. Yog pulls him closer and urges him to eat another, saying he has to finish everything. Cirrus just shakes his head and refuses. Watching all this, Daisy asks if this is how Cirrus normally eats. He sighs and says not really. Still trying to feed him, Yog smiles and claims they do this every day because her master likes it. Then she tells Daisy to leave if she doesn't want to watch. Daisy stands, apologizes for interrupting, and heads out, thinking maybe Cirrus and Yog really are that close now. A loud knock suddenly hits the door. Outside, a pink-haired girl politely asks someone to open up. Inside, another girl hears her and frowns, clearly annoyed. The boy beside her, Roy, looks confused and asks why nobody's answering. He uses magic, and the door blasts open with a sharp crack. Cirrus jumps up, shocked and furious. He yells at them for smashing his door, cursing and complaining. It cost 100 silver coins. He storms toward Roy with clenched fists, but Diana calmly steps in and offers a check for 100 gold coins, more than enough to cover it. Cirrus stops at once, takes the check, and asks what they want. Diana raises a hand and gets to the point. She wants him to work for her, and she's willing to pay 500,000 gold coins. Off to the side, Cirrus can hardly believe it. The offer is insane. Yog, though, is only getting more irritated. She's tired of all these women trying to take her master. Before Cirrus can answer, Daisy cuts in and tells him not to accept. He looks at her confused, and she turns to Diana and Roy, pointing out that they're from Zone D. Diana just smirks and calls Daisy an old lady, asking if that even matters. That sets Daisy off. She snaps that Cirrus is too important to Zone Z, and they're not letting him get taken to Zone D. Outside, Daphne is with her team. One member kneels by a corpse and says the blood still hasn't fully clotted, so the victim likely died about 4 or 5 hours ago. Then another teammate reports that Diana went to meet Cirrus. Daphne's face tightens, and she thinks to herself that the little snake really did go after him. Still, she stays focused. In a firm voice, Daphne says they have more important things to handle first, and orders everyone to search the area carefully. If anyone finds the vampire beast, they're to report it and wait for her. No reckless moves. The team answers right away. Daphne says no more. She uses her power and shoots into the air, thinking coldly that Diana won't get away with this again. Cirrus belongs in Zone Z. Elsewhere, a huge dragon tears through the area, smashing buildings and throwing debris everywhere. It's the Dragoon Beagle, and it's enormous. The beast roars in fury, but its rumbling stomach is even louder. This rampage seems driven by pure hunger as it tears through rooftops and crushes massive pillars with ease. Guild members rush to keep things under control. One says the civilians were already evacuated, so no one else got hurt. Even so, everyone is tense. The Slay Dragon Blade, the only weapon said to hurt Beagle, still hasn't been recovered, leaving them nearly helpless. A young scout says the safest plan is to keep their distance and watch, since fighting it head-on is too dangerous. But the guildmaster sees it differently, saying Beagle isn't attacking out of hatred. He explains the dragon settled near the ruins because there's a huge stash of gold buried there. Beagle likes gold, so it picked the spot as a comfy place to sleep. As for the hunger, it may just be cranky after waking up. Somewhere else, Daisy asks Lady Diana if they can pull in Zone Z's hard-to-get captain. Diana asks whether they have enough money to make a real offer. Then she looks to Cirrus, wanting his answer. He only blinks and says he doesn't even know the captain they're talking about. Diana doesn't care. She quickly gets to the point. What she really wants is for Cirrus to talk, specifically to explain how he got around Daphne's no cooperation rule, and what he knows about the Shea dungeon case. There's just one catch. He'd have to say it all live on a popular TV show, just to embarrass her sister. Once Ceres gets what she's really doing, he turns her down. He sees through the whole thing. Diana gets annoyed and raises her voice, saying this is his chance to make a huge amount of money. Ceres stays calm. He says making Daphne upset isn't worth it. He gave his word and he plans to keep it. Diana takes that like he's bargaining, and wonders if he's just fishing for a bigger payment. She starts offering more money, but then Daphne's voice cuts in from behind, sharp and commanding. Diana spins around, clearly surprised. Daphne marches in and demands that they stop bothering Ceres. She looks ready to swing. Roy quickly steps in and reminds her not to hit her sister too hard. Daphne eases up a little and tells Roy to stay out of it. From the corner, Daisy watches and quietly wonders if Daphne from Zone D might actually like Cirrus. Diana smirks and says Daphne must be insecure, or maybe she just doesn't trust Ceres anymore, especially after quitting all her jobs. Daphne glares and says Diana is just trouble by nature. Cirrus cuts in, saying he hasn't even spoken yet, but Daphne is already thinking about how he helped her before and how he never let money pull him away from his promise. Then she looks down at Diana, and a smirk spreads across her face. She says Diana clearly got breast implants, like she's trying to buy her way out of a problem. Then she jokes that there's no way Diana's chest is natural. Diana fires back at once, angrily denying it. Fed up, she orders Roy to leave with her and calls everyone there disgusting. On the way out, Diana burns with anger and thinks Ceres must be hiding more secrets, ones she can uncover and use against Daphne. After they leave, Daphne mutters that next time, Ceres should be the one to throw her sister out. Alone with her, he can only think about how bad things are between the sisters. He also briefly wonders if Daphne was telling the truth about the implants. Then a report comes in. A white-haired demonic beast has been found in Zone Y. Daphne moves right away and rushes out to check it. Daisy says goodbye and leaves soon after. That's when Yug steps up with troubling news. She tells Cerise that Sothel is in bad shape, her body temperature has dropped to a dangerous level, and only a high-grade recovery herb can save her, but there isn't enough time. Desperate, Cerise suddenly thinks of something. Maybe his blood, mixed with the power of Sothel's lord, might help. Without hesitating, he cuts his palm and lets his blood drip into Sothel's mouth. Yug gasps, but it works. Bright green mana wraps around Sothel's body as Cerise watches closely. A moment later, Sothel starts to move. Her eyes slowly open. She grabs her head, still groggy, and Cerise gently asks if she's okay. The scene shifts back to Beagle, now casually chewing on giant rocks. Suddenly it stops. Its nostrils flare. It smells something. With a low growl, the massive dragon turns and starts moving. Panic spreads fast. This has never happened before. Beagle is heading for Salem. The guildmaster immediately orders everyone to go on full alert. New reports confirm that Beagle is marching straight toward the city. Why? It can smell the blood of Sothel's lord now flowing through Cerise, and it wants it. Yug stares at the blood, amazed by how good it smells. Sothel grabs Cerise's hand and says she won't waste even one drop. Blushing, Cerise tells her she's sucking way too hard, and it's starting to tickle. Then Yug calls out that she can't hold back either. She needs a taste too. She grabs his head and goes for his hand, trying to drink some herself. Now both of them are eagerly sucking his blood, while Cerise yells for them to stop because he can't feel his hands anymore. The demon girls start wondering if they feel so strong and refreshed because the purification is working from inside their bodies. Yug realizes it must be healing Sothel too, because she can't stop and keeps craving more. Then a loud emergency alert blares out, announcing that a high-level magic barrier has been activated, and that breaks the moment. Both girls stop at once, startled by the warning. Sothel realizes she completely lost control. Yug is shocked to see her clothes have somehow returned, though her magic is running low now. The announcement goes on. A giant dragon named Beagle is heading straight for Salem City and will arrive in 10 days. All citizens are ordered to evacuate to underground shelters, and every warrior must draw their dragon-slaying blade to prepare for battle. Every warrior also has to report to HQ within 3 hours, or be demoted from the guild. Jeeps are already racing toward headquarters. Meanwhile, a secretary tells Cerise he's out of luck. He has no recruits with him, and Zone Z has no vehicles left. Cerise groans and asks if that means he has to run 100 miles. He yells at her to recruit someone already, but she just shrugs and says she still has paperwork. If he wants a ride, he'll need to join another guild. That's when Irene from Squad 14 offers him a spot. Cerise asks if her captain would mind, and she says he'd probably be glad to have someone strong like him along. But the second he says he's an F-rank captain, she freezes and backs off right away, because F-rank doesn't even have captains. She quickly acts like the whole thing never happened, which leaves Cerise furious. Then Bella suddenly appears and asks to join Squad 15. Cerise is shocked to see her. She greets him with a warm smile, and then complains that he never visited after leaving the hospital. She asks if he forgot her, saying she's heard plenty about him lately. Cerise explains that he's been buried in one crazy problem after another. Bella smiles, happy to hear he's a captain now, and says they can catch up after the mission. The secretary cuts in to remind him that he still has forms to finish. Irene tells Bella not to waste her time on an F-rank loser, and brags that her own captain is A-rank. Then Taylor walks in and smugly says, Cerise only became captain because of connections. Bella's eyes widen when she recognizes him. Taylor tries to recruit her into Callant's group, boasting that his armor makes him far stronger than Cerise. He gives her another chance, and even promises an A-rank sword. Bella refuses and says she's staying with Cerise. Cerise tells her to come sign the papers, and she heads over without a second thought. Taylor clenches his fists, furious that Bella keeps choosing Cerise over him. Irene mocks Bella for her bad taste, and tells Taylor to forget her, and move on. But Taylor is still boiling. He says one day they'll all be begging him for help. Back at the desk, Cerise starts complaining again about not having a vehicle. The secretary says Squad 14 already took the last two even though they only have 5 people. She suggests asking Captain Taylor for a favor. Taylor laughs in his face and calls Cerise a joke who can't even afford a full set. He says he'd rather publicly humiliate him in front of Bella than give him a seat. But Cerise quietly looks at the paper Lady Diana gave him, an offer promising help if he ever needed it. Taylor wonders why they still haven't come out yet. Then one of his people says they've arrived, and Taylor asks if they can't just take a car, which Cerise clearly agrees with. Taylor steps forward and drops his sword, then jokes that he's sorry and asks someone to pick it up, since he's still learning how to control his Thunder Rage weapon. Taylor then says if they want something, they should earn it, like real warriors. Bella snaps that he's clearly doing this on purpose. Irene mutters that Bella's taste in guys is awful, and the driver smugly suggests they beg Taylor for help if they want mercy. Taylor says every warrior has to reach headquarters within 3 hours or lose their place. If they can't do it, they're back to being F-rank nobodies. Bella quickly realizes Taylor is pushing Cerise around because of her. Cerise calmly says their helicopter has arrived. That catches Taylor completely off guard. Everyone freezes when they spot a helicopter marked with the guild's logo landing nearby. Since it's clearly a private VIP ride, people start wondering what kind of mission would need something that fancy. Taylor shuts that down, saying it's probably for some major job, and telling everyone to quit guessing. A young woman steps out of the helicopter and asks Cerise if it's time. Taylor's group is stunned. To them, Cerise is only F rank, so this makes no sense. Cerise grabs his sword and tells Bella to get on. Taylor fumes, unable to believe that an F rank loser is acting so bold. Then he notices Cerise is holding his weapon. He immediately demands that Cerise give it back. Cerise just says he forgot to return it. Then he uses his power and hurls the sword into the ground, where it explodes after hitting the gas tank. Everyone panics as the car bursts into flames, and Taylor orders his crew to find another ride. Meanwhile, the others yell that a demonic beast is slaughtering their people, drinking human blood and draining them dry like trolls. After tasting the blood, the beast says it's not the one she's looking for. She wonders which man has the blood she needs. The creature steps closer and says she'll drain every man in the city until she finds him. People panic, shouting that if Daphne is here, everything will be okay. One man cries out that they have to defend the city. They can't keep running around searching for warriors. The beast rushes them, and the commander warns them about the attack, but she grabs him first. He stares straight into her mouth, sure he's about to die. At the last second, someone dives in and saves him. Everyone shouts Daphne's name. She scolds them for not waiting, and when they tell her to go to headquarters, she refuses. She wants to kill the beast first. Then she recognizes the demon and asks why it's still alive. The beast seems surprised that Daphne knows her. Daphne sees she has the advantage now. She says last time she was trapped, but this time she'll even give up a part of herself, since the beast is weaker. The beast accepts that and explains she's only a collection of fragments, chasing a man with demonic blood, someone she thinks she's fought before. Daphne realizes the beast is after Cirrus, so she vows not to let it get anywhere near him. Cirrus asks if the sealed area under headquarters is real, and Diana confirms it is. Only a few trusted people know about it, and the dragon-slaying blades are stored there. Bella asks if beasts can appear down there, but Diana says no, the room is supposed to be secure. But when they move in, they find the guards dead. Cirrus asks Diana if the demonic beast got here, and it becomes clear this place isn't safe at all. Diana is shocked by a statue that shouldn't be there, the sleeping maid statue. She starts to wonder if their information was wrong. Bella spots a wounded man still alive in the middle of the slaughter. She rushes over and helps him sit against the wall while the others spread out to inspect the basement. Lady Diana steps forward, staring at the damage in disbelief. She can't understand how this basement became a massacre. The injured man weakly says the maid went downstairs right before everything went bad, and that instantly alarms her. She demands to know what's happening below, but he urgently tells her to be quiet. The statue could wake up again. Too late. The maid, or what's left of her spirit, hears them, and her stone eyes suddenly light up. A blinding laser shoots from her gaze and slams into Cirrus and the others with terrifying force. Roy shouts Lady Diana's name and lunges for her. He throws himself in front of her to block the blast. Cirrus reacts too, pulling Diana back and shielding her from the second wave. Then, just as fast, the beam stops. The statue's eyes shut again, and her head drops back into place like nothing happened. When the dust clears, Lady Diana turns to Roy in panic and asks if he's okay. He gives a crooked smile and says it's mostly his hand, nothing too serious. Bella keeps trying to treat the wounded man, but he says it won't matter. They need to split up and run, while they still can. Cirrus asks if the statue only fires when it hears sound. The man nods fast and warns them about the steps near the statue. Any sound or movement there sets off the deadly beam. Cirrus tightens his grip on his sword. He tells Bella to stay with the injured man, treat him, and watch over Lady Diana too. Diana, clearly shaken, orders Roy to destroy the statue. Cirrus offers a plan instead. They should target one eye at a time, so someone else can step in if one of them gets hurt. Roy isn't sold. He asks if Cirrus really thinks he can handle this, especially as just an E rank. Cirrus says nothing. Instead, he says he needs to test his strength, and charges in with his sword raised. The statue hears him. Her head snaps up, and her eyes open again. Another laser fires at Cirrus. He tries to evade it, knowing even a near hit will wear him down fast. He listens for the timing of her reactions and starts moving back and forth to throw her off. The statue keeps firing, cutting through everything in its path. The others try to help, but the blasts start catching them too. Watching in horror, Bella realizes this thing is much stronger than they thought. Cirrus focuses on the loudest sound. To test his guess, he throws his sword behind the statue. It instantly turns and blasts the weapon to dust, warning them to stay quiet in a mechanical whisper. That confirms it. She targets sound. He grabs another weapon and moves in again. This time he lands a clean strike, but his sword breaks apart on impact. Before he can react, Roy jumps in. His fist turns to stone, and he says this should be easy for him. He drives that stone fist into the statue's chest, but to his shock, it barely does anything. He doesn't even get a moment to process it before the statue grabs him. Roy cries out as her grip crushes tighter. Cirrus leaps forward, grabs a nearby hammer, and smashes it into the statue's back. Something flashes in the dust. He looks closer and stops cold. there's another eye embedded in the statue's back. Before he can warn anyone, the hidden eye opens and fires. Surus barely rolls away. Roy fights to hold on, creating a large stone cross between himself and the statue's hands to buy a little time. Lady Diana sees Roy struggling. Even their quiet voices stir the statue. Her head whips toward Diana, eyes locking onto the sound, and another laser fires. Still trapped, Roy sees it coming and yells for Diana to get back. Bella reacts instantly, dragging Lady Diana aside and into cover. Roy grits his teeth and tries one last move. He raises both hands to cover the statue's eyes and block the beam for a moment, but the laser burns straight through. It keeps firing, and the pain makes him scream. Even so, he yells at Surus to destroy the statue before it targets Diana again. In the middle of it all, Roy grabs the statue's head and tries to twist it away from the others. Then Surus suddenly feels something strange. As he gets close, his hand brushes the statue's chest and it's warm. The shock stops him for a second. To everyone's surprise, the statue reacts. A faint pink blush spreads across her stone cheeks, and she suddenly throws Roy and Surus away from her. Surus hits the ground, then gets back up while keeping his eyes on her. The statue curls in a little, almost shy, closes her eyes again, and covers her chest with both arms. Surus is baffled. He has no idea why she's acting like this. Roy growls in frustration, admitting he's hit her with everything he's got and barely left a mark. He looks at his hand shaking, discolored, obviously broken. Pain shoots up his arm, and he knows he can't throw another punch like that. His cry echoes through the chamber, and the statue's eyes snap open again. Roy realizes she's locked onto him once more, and he braces himself even though he knows he can't dodge. Surus sees it and moves at once, stepping in front of Roy and spreading his arms to shield him from the blast. Roy is stunned. He yells at Surus, asking how he plans to stop a laser with his bare hands, but the statue suddenly hesitates. She blinks in surprise when Surus touches her chest again and softly pinches it. That one move completely throws her off. The laser fires, but this time it misses and blasts the wall behind them. Surus notices the change and starts to wonder if she can actually feel things, if she's reacting with emotion. Bella and Lady Diana are left speechless. Somehow Surus is throwing off the statue's deadly aim in the weirdest way possible. Still hurt and confused, Roy asks Surus what in the world is happening. Surus doesn't explain. He just tells Roy to move back because he's injured. He'll handle it from here. Roy starts backing away, but the statue notices his movement and shifts to attack again. Surus reacts at once, using a counter to break her focus. It works. The blast misses Roy and tears into the wall instead. Still hiding, Lady Diana asks Bella if Surus always fights like this. Bella says no, this is totally new, but somehow it's working. Diana turns back to check on Roy. Roy says he's fine, but admits they never thought the statue would be this hard to break. He warns Surus not to let his guard down. By now the statue is focused only on him. Cyrus slips past her next attack, and that motion makes her chest shift again. She freezes for a second, clearly shaken. Then she rushes him again, flustered, but still coming hard. This time, Cyrus studies her closely. Her attacks are getting sloppy, like her whole fighting rhythm is falling apart. From the side, Roy points out how wild and messy her moves have become. Then Cyrus suddenly gives the statue a light smack on the butt, and tells her to focus if she wants a real fight. The statue stumbles right in the middle of her attack. Roy can only stare. As ridiculous as this is, he has to admit Surus is making it work. Roy drops to the ground, clutching his chest. Lady Diana asks if he's okay, and he says his chest hurts. His ribs might be cracked from the statue's blows. Bella quickly warns that chest injuries are serious, since they can affect his heart and lungs every time he breathes. She offers to help and asks him to show her his chest, though she warns it will only ease the pain for now. As Roy lifts his shirt, Bella pauses for a moment, surprised, but she quickly refocuses and checks his injuries. When Roy asks what she sees, Bella says the damage is real. Then he asks if any player stronger than Surus could beat the statue, but Bella insists his treatment comes first. Roy thinks back on the fight and realizes even his best attacks barely left a mark. Meanwhile, Surus has slowed the statue down so much it almost looks like he's controlling the fight. To Bella, that means his skill is beyond even an S-rank player. Cyrus notices the statue's blazer slipping and jokes that maybe her eyes are nearly shut because she's losing control. The statue says nothing and just tries to cover herself. That surprises Cyrus. He wonders if she's avoiding his eyes on purpose, then says she really does have feelings, and even calls her cute. When he sees she shuts her eyes whenever she's embarrassed, he decides to get close and use that weakness. Raising his hand, he teases her by asking if anyone's ever touched her belly button before. She suddenly kicks out hard to stop him from getting any closer. Bella shouts that she has to step in now, since their captain is hurt, and Cyrus can't do it alone. But Cyrus catches her foot, and the statue starts squirming in embarrassment. Roy grabs Bella and tells her not to ruin this for Cyrus. Confused, she asks what he means. Roy tells her to pay attention and reminds her that Cyrus is holding the statue's foot. She isn't overpowering him. He tells the statue to feel his heartbeat through her foot, then gives her leg another teasing shake. That only makes her even more flustered. Then she opens her eyes and starts shooting lasers again. Everyone is stunned when they realize the beams are weaker than before. Cirrus tells her attacks are getting weaker, even if they still won't kill him. Suddenly she grabs Cirrus by the neck and yanks him closer. Roy yells that she's charging a stronger attack and tells Cirrus to get away. Instead, Cirrus lifts a hand toward her chin. Roy warns him to dodge, not move closer, because this could kill him. Then the system locks on, and Cirrus kisses her. The statue is completely stunned. Roy blurts out that she's still frozen from the kiss. They exchange some water while Cirrus catches his breath after pulling back. Then the statue shoves him away, and Cirrus jokingly asks if she stuck out her tongue on purpose. Blushing hard, the statue covers her face and hides her head with both arms. Lady Diana shouts that she's covering her head. Cirrus steps in closer, and Roy notices she still hasn't reacted to him moving. Curious, Cirrus pokes at her and says her tongue is stiff. He wants her to look at him again, but the statue stays silent. So he calls to his friend, saying the shy girl still won't lift her head. At another split in the path, Taylor and his group look around in confusion. One teammate asks if there wasn't supposed to be only one route based on the intel. Taylor says the place feels like a maze. Irene answers that HQ's info is usually right, so there must be a reason. Another teammate doubts the one-path report, and Irene guesses the team before them may have triggered something that changed the terrain. Suddenly, another squad warns that a monster is here. A player gets slammed down and cries out in pain. A red-haired teammate asks if everyone drew their Slay Dragon Blade, but the others say many players are still lost, and some haven't even found the entrance. Their leader tells them to rely on their own power, and hold back the giant dragon charging at them. One player says he's bound the dragon's feet with magic, green mana wrapping around them as he tells everyone, including the captain, that the beast is pinned. But the chains start slipping, and he admits he can't hold it much longer. He tells everyone to attack, but the dragon breaks free with one huge blow and sends the players flying. Then an S-rank iron arm giant named Cassius shouts that he'll shield them, and orders everyone to keep attacking. He pours out a huge amount of mana, and turns into a giant monster. Then he charges the dragon and warns it not to come any closer. He slams into it with everything he has, and vows to cut it in half. The hit actually stops the dragon for a moment, and Cassius wonders if this might work. The others cheer, calling him amazing, and yelling for him to keep going. The dragon notices his attack and gives him an annoyed look. After a brief pause, she watches Cassius showing off his power and markings, muttering that people always start trouble whenever she's trying to eat. She lifts a hand and calls Cassius annoying. Then she swats him away like he's nothing. That one hit shatters Cassius's armor, and his mana means nothing to her. He crashes down, slamming his head, and everyone is left shocked that a fighter like him got dropped so easily. Even then, Cassius tells his allies that Salem City is counting on them, so they have to stop the dragon no matter what. Still fired up, he says they must bring it down before it reaches them. Outside a door, Taylor steps closer with one hand on the handle and warns his team to stay alert. They have no idea what's waiting on the other side. As Neres pushes the door open, it lets out a loud creak, and the whole basement starts to shake. The team is stunned. One member asks if the maze is having an earthquake, while Taylor tells everyone to get ready for anything. Another says it doesn't feel like an earthquake. The air is buzzing with magic, like someone activated a special mechanism. As Ceres forces the basement door wider, everyone feels the ground shifting again. Then a huge explosion erupts in the city, leaving everyone frozen in shock. One player says that blast was a giant burst of magic, and another asks what could have caused something that huge at headquarters. Then the truth hits them. The headquarters has disappeared from the city. Roy realizes the change must be tied to the door the protagonist opened. Lady Diana, dizzy and unsteady, nearly collapses onto Roy's lap. One member notices Carrot has passed out, and another says Hank is down too. Tiger Banlier, an S-rank player, worries about the C-rankers since they can't handle the magic backlash from the building. He says drawing a sword now is pointless when the whole area has changed. He feels the heavy magic still hanging over the ground and says it's terrifying. Nearby, Ceres' team talks about how only a dungeon with this much power could hold a legendary weapon. The Mo Xiaobei spots the sword on the ground, and Irene points it out to Taylor. Taylor sees it too and shouts that it's the Slay Dragon Blade. Ceres can't stop thinking how incredible it would be to pull that sword free. Irene reminds them he is only F rank, which annoys Taylor. Jealous, he can't believe the maze vanished and put him right beside the blade. Thinking the first person to try has the best shot, Taylor decides he can't let the protagonist beat him to it. He calls for his team to follow, and they rush in behind him. The sword starts whispering that it's uncomfortable with so many people crowding around it. MC stares in shock. The sword tells him to stop looking at it like that, saying it feels exposed without a scabbard. It warns him to close his eyes, or it'll release pressure on him because it hates being stared at. Ceres feels that pressure, and is stunned that a sword can talk at all. Then a huge wave of force bursts from the blade, cracking even strong armor, and dropping players one after another. Taylor's teammate explains what's happening, and everyone is stunned by the sword's mana. Around Taylor, the air feels heavy and burning, making it hard to breathe. He looks around and sees everyone struggling. Even Sariwas is being crushed by the pressure. The sword spirit notes that the protagonist is tougher than expected for still standing. Banlier whispers that anyone who can move under this pressure might be able to draw the sword. His teammate asks if he can even get near the Slay Dragon Blade, and what the danger is. Banlier says the sword has been asleep, so it shouldn't be dangerous. But the sword warns that anyone who comes too close is asking for trouble. That catches MC off guard, and he turns to Bella. He asks if she hears anything strange. Bella figures the heavy mana is messing with his head. Taylor jumps in and mocks him, saying the pressure scrambled his brain and that he can handle way more than Cerise. He reminds him the first one to pull the sword has the best shot, so he won't let him get there first. Then Taylor laughs, saying an F rank like the protagonist should never touch the Slay Dragon Blade. Bella rushes at Taylor and tells him not to act so fast, but MC stops her and warns her to stay away from him. The second Taylor crosses the line and nears the sword. It reacts at once and yells at him to get back. Taylor ignores it. He thinks if he grabs the sword in front of Bella and him, he'll look like a hero and put him in his place. The spirit glares at him and snaps, telling him not to touch her hilt. As Taylor reaches out while looking down on the protagonist, the spirit yells that something about him feels creepy. She kicks out to drive him back. Taylor is blasted away. He screams as the sword's mana tears into him. His teammates freeze, then call out to their captain in disbelief that the sword actually struck him. Cerise studies the sword. The spirit scoffs at humans, saying they always handle her like trash. Even after all this time, she still can't stand them. Taylor sees his armor has split apart, even though it was made from deep-sea materials. MC realizes his A-rank scale armor has been protecting him this whole time. Without it, he would have been in real danger. The other players can barely believe it. They wonder how anyone is supposed to draw the sword safely, say Taylor was rejected, and realize the Slay Dragon Blade has fully awakened. Taylor's team says their armor isn't strong enough to survive its attacks, and starts wondering who could possibly try next. Then Taylor suddenly starts laughing, leaving his teammates confused. He says he hasn't failed at all. In his mind, a legendary weapon only goes to someone who clears its trial. Standing before the sword, he declares that as an A-rank warrior, he's already passed. He shouts that the Slay Dragon Blade should be glad, but the spirit clearly disagrees. She fires back that this is different. She hates rude guys like him, and taking him down herself sounds pretty satisfying. To her, he's not worthy. Taylor whirls toward him and accuses him of being jealous, because the blade seems interested in him. He quietly says maybe it just wants to kill Taylor itself. The spirit glances at the protagonist and softly agrees. He's exactly right. Without warning, Taylor lunges for the sword. The spirit notices too late because she wasn't watching him. Taylor grabs hold, and she points out he's clutching her neck, not just the sword. A huge burst of mana erupts, and Taylor's armor starts breaking apart. Everyone is shocked he can still hold the hilt. They start thinking he might actually claim the Slay Dragon Blade. Still gripping it, Taylor yells that the power is ripping through his whole body. He wonders if this is the blade's final test. The spirit screams that he's hurting her, and struggles to get free. Taylor locks both hands on the sword, refusing to let go. The players shout that Taylor will be the first to pull it and become the hero who saves the city. That sends the spirit over the edge. Furious, she screams that they're all disgusting for the way they've treated her. Taylor suddenly feels the air around him change. The others notice it too, and think the sword has stopped attacking. Hope spreads fast. They figure they might win without risking themselves, and they urge Captain Taylor to pull the Slay Dragon Blade free. Banlier, though, looks disappointed. He starts to wonder if Taylor really did succeed, and mutters that there's no reason for an S-rank like him to step in now. Taylor gets even more fired up. Thinking about Bella, he tightens his grip and tells himself the blade chose him, not Cirrus. The crowd keeps cheering and calling him a hero. Bella scowls, annoyed that Cirrus was supposed to reach the sword first, but Taylor beat him to it. The spirit, now fully awake, is confused by the cheers. Then she snarls that she'll tear them all apart. Cirrus sees the shift right away, and pulls his teammates back. Bella asks what's wrong. He warns her the Slay Dragon Blade is furious. A second later, everyone feels it. The blade lashes out, unleashing wild destruction through its crushing mana. The spirit targets Taylor, and pain crashes through him. Everyone nearby feels the sword's insane pressure. Taylor howls in agony, and even Iron is shocked by how bad his condition looks. The spirit, who knows humans well despite her shy side, throws out a savage kick. Iron senses the surge of mana and yells that the attack is heading straight for Taylor. Terrified, he ducks behind Taylor and begs for help. Then Banlier steps in front of them and blocks the attack, controlling it with one hand. He uses his full power, while Iron stares in shock and Taylor is still out cold. Banlier avoids the strike as the ground shakes. The sword keeps raising the pressure, battering everyone nearby with magic. The spirit notices Banlier and admits his body is incredibly tough. She sees his armor repairing itself like a shield, and recognizes how strong he is. As an A-rank warrior, the players are amazed that Banlier's armor is still intact, and one points out just how impressive an A-rank warrior like him is. Banlier orders them to move the wounded to the underground shelter. The lower ranks are to help evacuate, while the stronger ones stay with him. Everyone moves at once. Taylor's team lifts him up and says they have to leave before it gets even worse. Banlier draws on his power and transforms, declaring himself humanity's strongest guardian. Then he heads for the sword he believes is the strongest weapon in the world. At that moment, the spirit lifts her leg. She prepares to strike Banlier, and he braces for it, shouting that they're a perfect match. Banlier rushes the sword. He pushes forward, trying to seize it while dodging the magic coming at him. The spirit is surprised by how fast he is. Members of the Salem City Guild cheer him on, yelling that he's their last hope, and that he has to show the Slay Dragon blade. Human strength can beat it. The spirit lifts both legs. She gathers more pressure through her magic, but Banlier slips past every attack and keeps closing the distance. So far, none of her power can stop him. He grabs the sword and declares that he should be the one to wield it. The spirit refuses to belong to him, so she launches another attack straight at Banlier, and his armor shatters. The blow lands hard, cuts his face, and leaves blood running down. Everyone is stunned. Banlier realizes he's been hurt even though the spirit never actually touched him. He drops to one knee as his teammates shout his name. Banlier tells them to stay back and shoves them away. Then he says they have to beat the sword. The players are shaken. If even S-rank armor can't endure its magic, what chance do they have? One says the Slay Dragon blade is fully awake now, and winning feels impossible. Banlier insists this is their only chance to gain power and earn the Slay Dragon blade's honor. The others whisper that they'll have to fight to the end. Banlier tells them they're warriors, and for Salem City they must face this trial. He demands to know why they're hesitating, then turns harsh. Any player who refuses to fight will be treated as a deserter and killed on the spot. Banlier snaps at them to stop the useless talk. The spirit overhears and murmurs that the humans know how strong she is, and they're afraid. She points at a blonde player and says she'll start with him if no one moves, shoving him toward the danger zone. The blonde guy panics. Then he spots someone already moving on the battlefield and yells for Banlier to look. Sari stares at the sword, remembering what the spirit said when Taylor tried to grab it. He realizes the sword can think and talk like a person. Since it has a life force, he wonders if his system can connect to it and bind the spirit. MC orders his system to lock onto the target, and it answers. The spirit curls around the sword, confused by the way he's staring at her. The players start talking at once. They can't believe the captain of Squad 14, an F rank, thinks he can draw the sword. To them he is crazy. Someone that weak will just get cut apart. Sirius says he's a warrior, and it's his job to protect Salem City from danger. He vows to draw the Slay Dragon blade even if it costs his life, and he won't turn back. Banlier says this weak player has shown more courage than the A rank and B rank ones. In his eyes, the protagonist has a noble soul. The spirit of the Slay Dragon blade starts to feel something strange from him. In a whisper she says he gives her a weird itch. Seeing him stare, she says he's not like the other humans. She can't ignore it anymore. Some strange pull is forming between them. As Sirius comes closer, she tries to cover herself, and decides to use a slash to keep him back. At the same time, the spirit can't understand why she suddenly feels so weak. Her legs barely move, and the numb, tingling feeling only gets worse. The players are stunned. Sari stands near the sword without being crushed by its magic, and no one gets why it isn't reacting. They all know the blade normally cuts down any living thing that comes close, which is why nobody can pull it. But around MC, it's strangely calm, so some think it might be asleep. The sword spirit feels something strange in her head and realizes her power and her urge to attack are fading. When she looks at him, she can tell he's the reason these weird feelings keep hitting her. The closer he gets, the stronger that connection feels. The players can't believe the spirit still hasn't attacked. They argue over whether the Sword of Judgment has gone dormant, and one says the protagonist must be insanely lucky if that's true. The sword spirit suddenly feels her hand grow heavy. She tries to control her emotions, but it's not working. Saris keeps staring at her, even as blood runs from his nose. One player notices and points out that the blood didn't come from the sword striking him. Banlier says it's absurd. MC is only an F-rank hero, yet he isn't collapsing under the sword's pressure. With power like this, he shouldn't even be able to stay upright, especially when he's barely clearing hero missions. Holding his nose, he says he's never bled this much before. Even so, he can feel just how huge the Sword of Judgment's power is. Bella nervously tells him he can back away if it gets too dangerous. He answers by raising a hand, stopping her. Sarquil, he says his duty is to protect Salem City, and he'll finish that mission no matter what. At the same time, the sword spirit feels weird just looking at him. Warm, shaky, even ticklish. She grabs her chest as her heart starts racing. The feeling is so strange that she even wants to tear at her clothes a little. Part of her wants to show more of herself to Saris. As she struggles with those thoughts, she tells herself not to let embarrassment take over. Then she snaps at the protagonist, to stop staring before she ends up too exposed. To defend herself, she moves to face him. The players sense the danger, and yell that the Slay Dragon blade has awakened. Banlier is shocked by the force, saying it's like the attack that broke his armor. Everyone shouts that Ceres is in danger at this distance, while he wonders if the spirit still has enough power left to hit him. He reaches out and lightly touches the sword, thinking he needs to strike back if he wants to live. The moment he does, the sword spirit feels something odd and wonders what's happening to her. As MC links with the sword, a tingling feeling runs through her legs, throwing off her focus. Because of that, her attack hits the ground instead. Everyone gasps when the Slayer Dragon Blade's attack suddenly stops. Banjay can't believe it. How is an F rank like Ceres taking the sword's attack without even damaging his armor? He's stunned by his toughness. Meanwhile, the sword spirit steadies herself and thinks about everything she's felt in battle, armor being sliced apart and raging fire. But this is different from all of that. A new electric feeling runs through her, mixed with a light tickle she can't shake. Overcome by it, she drops to her knees and admits she can't attack him anymore. Seeing that chance, Ceres says this is the perfect moment to become the swordsvey. The spirit blushes harder, admitting his touch feels ticklish. The protagonist focuses and pours all his strength into pulling the sword free. The sword spirit can't resist anymore, and loses her strength. Then, in a shocking moment, Ceres pulls out the sword and everyone is left speechless. The players burst out in disbelief. They can't understand how someone so weak could draw the Slaky dragon sword and make it his. Even the spirit admits MC might really become her master. He's set on drawing the sword to protect Salem City, but then he notices another hand reaching for it. Other sword spirits appear before him, kneel down, and declare that this can't be allowed. One steps forward and tells Ceres that drawing the Selly dragon sword is no simple thing. A player says the Sword of Judgment has regained its power, so brute strength alone isn't enough to pull it free. The sword spirit fights to stay in control as emotion after emotion crashes through her. She realizes attacking him won't help anymore. That only makes her more annoyed. She waited so long for a true master, and now it's humiliating to be shaken by someone like him. Both of them end up gripping the sword at once, and the spirit hates it. She calls it disgraceful, but even while complaining, she starts holding back from pulling the sword away on purpose. She yells that if she were really using her full power on him, he'd be bleeding from his nose and mouth by now. Just the pressure of her spirit should make it hard for him to even breathe. Still, she insists she's a pure, flawless weapon and won't let her feelings sway her. Even in the middle of all this, she tries to protect the sword, while Ceres throws everything he has into pulling it free. She reminds Ceres that she's only a spirit, but he's flesh and blood. If he keeps forcing it, he'll destroy himself. She tells him to stop, yet he refuses. Driven by courage and his need to protect the city, Ceres won't let go. One player says Ceres has no plan to quit. The others cheer for him, saying he's risking everything for the city and could grow into a great warrior one day. The sword spirit is baffled by how far he's willing to go. Then she finally sees it. There's real justice in his heart. She asks for a moment to recover, and when he rubs the sword, she loses control again, complaining that he's tickling her under the arms and driving her crazy. Even so, she's determined not to lose. She braces herself and tries to endure it, so he can't gain the upper hand. Something still feels wrong. She remembers being burned, beaten, polished, even broken before, but this feeling is worse because she can barely stand it. Ceres keeps working the sword, and the strange tickling only gets stronger. Her once overwhelming power starts fading, giving Ceres a real opening. He strains with everything he has to pull out the sword. Everyone watches closely, and one player shouts that the Sword of Judgment is starting to come out farther. The sword spirit answers with a burst of mana, her eyes glowing blue as she boldly declares she can endure any feeling. But right after that, she unleashes her full power and slams Ceres with crushing magical pressure. Raw mana explodes around him, the ground cracks, rocks break apart, and chunks of stone rise into the air. Even then, Ceres keeps pulling through the chaos. He's barely hanging on under the crushing force, and admits it feels like his bones could snap. He starts to wonder if the spirit is trying to crush him just to stop him from drawing the blade. More rocks float up, and Bella panics when she sees what he's going through. She charges in and swings her sword to block the blast aimed at Ceres, but the instant it touches that power, her blade shatters. The other players yell for everyone to stay back. The gravity magic is at full force, so dense it's visible in the air. They fear Ceres has already been crushed, and believe no one can draw the sword now. At the same time, the system warns Ceres that his body is starting to break apart from the strain. The sword spirit mocks him, saying his body is almost done, and the gap between their power is far too wide. According to her, his hand and body will never lift the sword even an inch. She tells him to give up before she crushes him completely, but Ceres refuses, saying she's underestimated his will. With a grin, he lightly brushes his fingers along the sword again, making the spirit lose control and cry out in frustration. Ceres tells himself he can still win as long as he doesn't give up. Then he slides a finger over the blade, daring the spirit to endure it. She clenches her fist as that wild feeling rushes through her again, then digs her nails into the ground while Ceres watches closely. This time the sensation hits her in a whole new way, and her focus starts breaking apart. Even then, she's still trying to stop Ceres. The sword's power swells again, and the players warn each other to stay back. Bella can't withstand the pressure any longer and collapses. Ceres notices pain shooting through his fingers, but he keeps stroking the sword. The spirit can't understand it. He's under crushing force and risking being flattened, yet he still has enough strength to keep tickling her. She starts wondering if Cirrus is driven by justice and duty, then yells at him to stop before she completely loses it. Cirrus gives the sword another teasing stroke and asks if she feels it now. The spirit is hit by that same sensation again, and suddenly realizes the sword itself is changing. The players spot something strange around the blade, and one shouts, asking what's rising from the ground. The sword lifts up and everyone sees it clearly, the slave dragon sword. Cirrus grabs it and plants it on the ground. The players are shocked. An F rank like Cirrus actually pulled out the slave dragon sword. The sword spirit feels humiliated because she tried so hard to stop him. That's where the story pauses for now.